Good morning.
Are you concerned with the distribution of your assets at the time of your passing? Avoid probate. Call the Siegel Law Group with 9 offices throughout South Florida, from Palm Beach Gardens to Coral Gables. Call toll free 1-855 FLA 3782.
All right, here we go.
You are listening to South Florida's longest running radio show, The Steve Kane Show.
888-465-2631, a toll-free call from anywhere. I was watching what's going on in Seattle, Washington, in the Chaz. You guys familiar with the Chaz? Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. This is... Oh, man, there's so many crazy things going on in this country, and I hope that the national media descend on Seattle and start covering the Chaz. And if you're not familiar, I'm going to read through an article or two to get people up to speed. The Chaz is the City Hall zone in Seattle that the activists have taken over, and 500 residents of Seattle, 500 regular, everyday people, not activists, Democrats for sure, because it's Seattle, Washington, but 500 people live in this zone. And if you're not familiar with what has happened here, it's very interesting, and also I find it kind of funny. Very far left-wing leftists. I mean, the leftists that have taken over the Chaz zone in Seattle are so left that they're opposed to the leftists that already run Washington State. They've taken over part of Seattle. They call it Chaz. The area contains about 500, not activists, but 500 residents of Seattle. The far-left activists, they've been pouring in there from all over, and they have declared a police-free zone. They have declared that this is no longer part of the United States. They have put up a wall, and let me read to you the Wikipedia entry about this, and then we'll talk about it and take your calls. And I'll tell you, there is something going on here that I believe. Now, this what I believe is going on is speculation, but I think it's a very educated speculative theory on what's going on in Seattle, which I'll get to at the end of all this. This is the Wikipedia that I'm reading from. Okay, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, which is being called Chaz, or the Zone, and Chaz has a hashtag on the Twitter. The Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, Chaz, formerly known as the Free Capitol and Free Capitol Hill, is a self-declared autonomous zone, intentional community and commune, covering approximately 6 city blocks in the Capitol Hill neighborhood of Seattle, Washington. Again, this is Wikipedia. They've already got a Wikipedia entry. The Chaz Zone was established on June 8th. Wow, it's only the 11th. They already got the Wikipedia. After the East Precinct Police Building was abandoned by the Seattle Police Department. That's right. And of course, and they have changed the sign from Seattle Police Department to Seattle People Department. Capitol Hill is a district in downtown Seattle known for its prominent LGBT and counterculture communities. The district had previously been a center for other mass protests, such as the 1999 Seattle WTO protest and Occupy Seattle, which offshoot of Occupy Wall Street. Protest, again, I'm reading from Wikipedia. This is what's going on in Seattle, the Chaz. Protest over the killing of George Floyd and police brutality began in Seattle on May 29th. For 9 days, there were street clashes involving protesters, the Seattle Police Department, and the Washington National Guard. On June 5th, Mayor Jenny Durkin and Seattle Police Chief Carmen Best. Are these all women? Do they have men in Seattle? Or are these men with these names? I don't know. The police chief announced a 30-day ban on the use of tear gas. Protests eventually coalesced around Seattle PD's East Precinct building, where the Seattle police used metal fencing and large cement blocks that they placed around the police precinct. After a car drove into a crowd of protesters and the driver shot someone, crowds outside the precinct grew. Shortly after midnight, police reported protesters throwing bottles, rocks, and fireworks, and police were authorized to resume the use of tear gas. Over 12,000 complaints were filed about the police response to the demonstration. The following afternoon, in a police retreat, police retreat is a new concept in America. When have the police retreated? The following afternoon, in a police retreat, the Seattle Police Department abandoned the East Precinct, covering the windows with plywood and leaving the front door open. Citizens erected street barricades and declared the area Free Capitol Hill. The zone is centered around the East Precinct building, a police precinct, which the police abandoned on June 8th. It stretches north to East Denny Way, east to 13th Ave, south to East Pike, and west to Broadway. The entirety of Cal Anderson Park falls inside the zone. Protesters concerned about the potential for a vehicle attack, I guess from law enforcement, used blockades and fences to construct a staggering barricade at intersections. The entrance of the zone's territory is marked by a barrier reading this, quote, "You are entering Free Capitol Hill," unquote, which pays tribute to the Northern Irish. Other signs declared, "You are now leaving the USA." The East Precinct building has had the word people spray painted over the word police. The Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, known as CHAZ, has no centralized system of governance. Occupants have stated their intentions of creating a neighborhood beyond policing and a society where the police are no longer necessary. A paradise, a liberal utopia. Members of the self-described anti-fascist, anti-racist, pro-worker Puget Sound John Brown Gun Club, which, by the way, were featured in the most recent Project Veritas video, coincidentally, were seen openly carrying rifles in the Chaz zone. Reporters from a local, again, this is Wikipedia. You can read this all yourself. And this is happening like in real time. So the Wikipedia can be updated in real time too. Reporters from a local Seattle Fox affiliate were removed from the zone by occupants. But there have been no violent confrontations between police and residents. According to a June 10th article by City Journal, hip-hop artist Raz Simone acts as co-leader and enforcer of the zone. Enforcer? While former mayor candidate Nikita Oliver formulates the commune's political aims. However, according to hip-hop artist Raz Simone, the zone has no central leadership, with all residents serving as leaders. But it seems these two are the leaders. Demands. They have a list of demands. On June 9th, a blog post containing a list of demands appeared on Medium, which was shared widely by people on the ground and familiar with the reality of the situation in the Chaz. The demands included de-gentrification of Seattle through the use of rent-control apartments, the abolition of the Seattle Police Department, and the abolition of the Seattle courts, and a federal investigation into police brutality, among other demands. Tents have been put up next to the police precinct to hold the space. The No Cop Co-op was established June 9th, offering free water, hand sanitizer, snacks donated by the community, and kebabs. The intersection at 12th and Pine was converted to a square for teach-ins, where a microphone was used to encourage people who were there to FS up. You can fill in the words to go home. An outdoor cinema with a sound system and projector was set up and used to screen open-air movies. Wow, they got movies. There no movie theaters are still closed in America, but they got them in the Chaz. The first film shown was 13th, Anna DuVernay's documentary about race and mass incarceration. Portable toilets were provided by the Seattle Department of Transportation. Peaceful demonstrations have been staged and organized, including an invasion of the Seattle City Hall, demanding the resignation of Jenny Durkin. That's the mayor. City services are still being provided to the Chaz Zone, including fire and trash removal. And the Seattle PD has stated that they will respond to 911 calls within the zone. Although it's a no-cop co-op, police are not allowed. Many occupants of the zone have adopted a pink umbrella as an official emblem. Homemade riot shields have been crafted by protesters, stenciled with pink umbrellas. The mayor has stated that she will de-escalate the situation within the zone, while Seattle's police chief, Carmen Best, said her officers would look at different approaches to reduce their footprint in the Capitol Hill neighborhood. Seattle Council member Kshama Sawant, a politician from the Socialist Alternative, spoke to the Chaz Zone occupants. She called for the protesters to turn the precinct into a community center for restorative justice. Senator Ted Cruz from Texas stated the Chaz Zone was endangering people's lives. The next day, President Donald Trump demanded the governor of Washington State take back the zone, saying that if she didn't do it, he'd do it for her. In response, the governor told President Trump to, quote, go back to his bunker, unquote. Some, such as the Strangers, Charles Moodid, have compared the zone to Manhattan's High Line, pointing to it as a possible model by which the zone could be institutionalized. The Chaz Zone has received praise from the Industrial Workers of the World Union and its magazine, The Industrial Worker. Okay, now that was just the Wikipedia entry, and I've got some news articles after the break I'll get into. And after the break, I just wanted to keep people up to speed and a little detail on what's going on, because when you watch what's going on in Seattle on television, all you get is, well, they took over the city hall, and they, you're not really getting what's going on inside Seattle, and it's probably the most interesting story in America today. So let me take our first break of the first hour of the Thursday edition of Florida's longest running radio show. And I want to tell you what's going on and what the president is doing and what I believe the occupants in Seattle, in the Chaz Zone, Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, what they're trying to do. Everyone's trying to do something. I'm going to tell you what I think it is. And your calls are certainly welcome. Toll free from anywhere, 1-888-GO-CANE 1-888-465-2631. All right, let's take that break, okay? And we'll be back. Don't go anywhere.
It's summertime, and that means backyard barbecues and hanging out by the pool. With Father's Day right around the corner, get Dad the gift all dads will love. A new grill from Ace Hardware Deerfield or Beach Ace Hardware in Lauderdale by the Sea. They are your grilling headquarters. They have an incredible selection on all the top brands like Weber and Traeger, and the best deals around on every type of grill there is. Gas grills, charcoal grills, portable grills, and more. Free assembly and delivery is available too. Ace Hardware Deerfield is just south of Hillsboro, on the west side of US 1. Beach Ace Hardware is in Lauderdale by the Sea. Tell them you're about them on the Steve King Show. And happy Father's Day.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
Dr. Matez, good morning.
Good morning, Brian. You and I talk about cognition all the time when I call in. We have so many different options to try to help people with their cognition here. I will repeat what I say all the time. This is called age management, folks. It's not just, hey, come in and get some hormones and feel better. We have options. Hormones, by the way, is one of the greatest ways to get your cognition back, get your hormones back. We have other options. One of the biggest things going on these days is peptide therapy. These are actually FDA-approved therapies that are designed to help you regain your cognition. We have vitamins, intravenous vitamin therapies that are designed. All of these
not the
things,
in-betweeners.
Absolutely 100% natural.
The In-Betweeners is the greatest television show ever made.
Cognition. And Mr. Biden could avail himself of all of these things.
I'm going to get into the Gone with the Wind and the In-Betweeners after I'm done with Seattle. If you're not subscribed, subscribe, all right, guys? And click that notification bell. Thanks, Jack.
I'll tell you, Dr. Mitch Matez, a lot of people assume with aging, oh, well, these things are going to happen. I'm going to lose my sex drive. I'm going to lose my hair. I'm going to want to sleep in the middle of the day. I'm not going to have energy. I'm not going to be able to remember, forgetting things. That's just part of aging. Well, these things are true, but you can do something about it with hormone replacement pellet therapy. And hormone replacement pellet therapy is a totally 100% natural process, right? These are natural
this is a YouTube channel I watch.
That is correct.
It's called Mickey Views.
The
It's a
peptides are
Disney,
proteins that are in
Walt
your
Disney
body.
World
They're
YouTube channel.
specifically designed to improve the health of your cells.
That's right,
By
Terry.
manipulating these things, we
I don't
can
have a
help
copy.
people
Well,
get
actually, I
energy, we
did
can
buy
help
it.
lose body
I
fat,
have it
increase
on
lean muscle mass, improve
my
the health of their
iTunes.
arteries, fix the fatty livers.
Yeah,
there's
the
a
Epic
whole
Times,
lot of
they,
things that can be done. It's all safe,
run
it's all
ads on my
effective, it's all
YouTube
pretty
videos.
easy. But you have to come and see us if you want to get it done.
Well, that's the first step. And the consultation with Dr. Mitch Matez, if you mention the Steve Kane Show, is totally free. So call his office, mention the Steve Kane Show, avail yourself of the no-charge consultation with Dr. Mitch Matez, 561-953-5490, 561-953-5490, online, hormonetherapy.bocaratone.com. All right, Dr. Matez, we will talk later in the week.
Yes, we will. Have a great day, Brian. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Listen to the Steve Kane Show on iHeartRadio. Just search for W.
All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. This is the Steve Kane Radio Show, Florida's longest-running radio show on the radio since 1977. All right, now back to what's going on in Seattle, which I find the most interesting story in America. And I really want to see the national media camped out. Now, here's what's going on here. From the leftist activist position, they're trying to do something. And President Trump, who said, if you don't get him, I will, he's working an angle too. And President Trump is not going to go into Seattle and take back the Chaz. He's not going to do it. What the activists want, not the ones inside of the zone, but what the guys at the top want, and the guys and the gals at the top, what they want is a siege, a Waco, Ruby Ridge siege. They want, see, the left are always wrong about Trump because they don't understand Trump. They don't know Trump. They don't understand his motivations. They can never predict how he's going to act or react because what they have of Donald Trump is a stereotype. They think he's some billionaire playboy with a massive ego. That's all an act. He's one of the most well thought out individuals that you've ever seen in action. He's very patient, he's very brilliant, and he's always about 15 to 20 steps ahead of the rest of the world. And Donald Trump is working an angle that I'm going to tell you, and I'll let you know, is going to be right on the money. What the leftist activists want is a Ruby Ridge Waco siege that ends in violence. And they think Donald Trump is insane and crazed and will do such a thing. That's not what he's going to do at all. That's not what he's going to do at all. The Chaz, although it happened quite unintentional, but it's being used by the federal government in a very interesting way. I would, if you go back a couple of weeks ago, even I think it might have even been last week, but certainly no longer than 2, the Attorney General started talking about Antifa. And we know Antifa's there. The John Brown Society, that's the armed Antifa. And the president was talking about redesignating Antifa. They did it. I believe that inside of the Chaz are a number of embedded, undercover federal agents who have infiltrated Antifa, probably have quite some time ago, and have moved into the Chaz, and there were probably more on the way, not to retake it. This is a liberal town that's not liberal enough for the liberals that are occupying the Capitol Hill zone, okay? What I believe is going on is the federal government, that President Trump and Barr have agents inside the zone posing as homeless people, posing as activists. Some of the Antifa people may very well be federal agents, okay? Right now, leftists from all over America are descending on the zone, and people are being allowed to enter activists. this is going to go on for quite some time. A lot of people are comparing this to Occupy Wall Street in that it's going to be a long-term sit-in situation there. Okay? At some point, leftist leaders that don't usually get involved in such things openly are going to also go inside the zone. Or if they don't go inside the zone, are going to start communicating with the leaders in there who claim it's a leaderless movement. And I believe that the federal agents are inside there doing surveillance, running an intelligence operation inside the Chaz to identify the leaders of Antifa, and that the Attorney General is planning a sting arrest of Antifa leadership. That if they don't go there themselves, and some of them may, this is a big deal, you know, and they want to be a part of it, but if they don't, they'll be in some type of communication by phone or email or something, and it's being monitored to identify who the true leaders of Antifa are. That's what I think is going on. That's just my opinion, but I think that's what's going on here. There's not going to be an armed confrontation between the federal government and these occupiers there. There may be something between the local Seattle police or the Washington State National Guard at some point, maybe. But it's not going to be federal. It's just not going to be. That would be counterproductive. And President Trump does not want to have a Waco on his hands or a Ruby Ridge on his hands. So he's talking tough, but he's going to stay out of it. And he's playing the long game here. And that's what's going to happen. And we may not know about this for a year, 6 months. We might find out sooner rather than then, but that's what's going on here. Probably the greatest intelligence gathering operation against the leftist agitators in a long time in this country. And that is what is happening. And it's so interesting when you watch, if you go to the Washington State media, they're in so much support of this. I'm reading articles here that just crack me up. I mean, I can't believe when things like this are going on in your community that you would be so pro, but it's, you know, it's a liberal state and a liberal city. This is from the local newspaper up there, mynorthwest.com. Here's an article, Nick Bowman, yesterday afternoon, a look inside Seattle's newly formed Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. On Monday, the mayor of Seattle, Jenny Durkin, announced that police at the city's East Precinct would be leaving the area and reopening streets that have been blocked off. It didn't take long before what's become known as the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone began to take shape. Barriers originally set up by police have been repurposed to set up the borders of the zone. The first thing they did, when they took over, these leftists, the first thing they did was put up a wall around the entire place. Now, I thought walls were racist. I've even heard talk that there's some sort of monetary system being put in place inside the Chaz. So don't worry, because I know a lot of people are concerned about where this is going to lead. You know, I was watching some of this on Fox News, and people are, oh, where's this going to lead? Where's this going to lead? Well, let's hope that it leads to the national media camping out like they usually do during these sieges. You know, because people need to see what's going on. They did run out the local Fox News affiliate, but there's been some local radio people that have made it inside the zone that have been reporting, and some local reporters have been doing some reporting. But I was looking through the local newspapers in Seattle, and they are in solidarity with the people inside. So this is going to go on for a long time, and it's something that we should all enjoy. Now, there will probably be people live streaming from inside all over the place. Watch. Keep in touch with everything that's going on, but I'm telling you, this is a major operation by Barr to infiltrate the leftist. And what I would compare it to, back in I guess it was the 80s, you know, the FBI was investigating the mafia for a long time in New York, and they didn't have a lot of success. And then somebody will tell me who the name was, because I can't remember the name of the mob boss that did this off the top of my head. But one of the mafia big bosses, one of the leaders of the five families, threw a big celebration in the city and brought up all the leaders of the five families and identified them by name. And the FBI were there, and that's when the FBI was able to identify the leaders of the American mafia families. And then after that's when they began infiltrating them and arresting them all and broke the mafia, at least back in that era. That's a similar thing that's going on in Seattle right now. It's an opportunity for federal law enforcement to identify the real leaders of the leftists that have been organizing these things nationwide. I promise you that's what's going on. All right, let's take our break for the bottom of the hour. 35 minutes after 6 o'clock in the morning. My name is Brian Craig. You are listening to Florida's longest running radio show, The Steve Kane Show. On the radio since 1977. Our number toll free, 1-888-GO-KANE-1. 888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. Certainly like to hear your thoughts on this, and whatever else you have on your mind is certainly welcome. Steve will be back with us today as well. All right, let's take that break, and we'll be back.
Kane, I'm sitting here with my good friend and my attorney,
Steve Kane Show.
Barry Siegel of the
Me.
Siegel Law Group. Barry, you offer a service called Elder Law, and since I'm getting up there in years, I'd like to find out exactly what that is and when and if I need it.
Sure, Steve. Elder law, think of it as asset protection. Now, as we age and get into our
Steve Kane Show.
retirement years, the number one concern or threat to our assets is the cost of long-term care. Care either at home, in an assisted living facility, or in a nursing home can be very, very expensive.
Welcome. Make sure you subscribe
And
if you're
it can
new here.
devalue your assets. It can even deplete your assets. To
Oh, yeah,
nothing.
an hour difference.
Imagine
Yeah, where you at,
You
Daniel?
lose all your assets.
We're on the
You have to
Eastern
go into
time
a
zone here.
facility, and your spouse at home has nothing.
That's exactly what's going on.
left.
It's an
Or
opportunity
you
that they're taking
don't have
advantage
any
of, Trump
assets
and
left
Barr.
to leave to your loved ones. So with elder law, we are able to look at different
I was just
government
talking about
benefits
that.
may be available to you or your spouse, such as Medicaid
well, it's Starbucks,
or
of
veteran
course.
benefits. And
Large,
even
hot,
if you
blonde
don't think that you're
Americano.
eligible for these
What do they call it, a
benefits, you'd be
venti?
surprised.
A
That's
venti?
what elder law attorneys do. is
Blonde
they help
Americano
people
with
who
half and
may
half.
not be eligible at this point become eligible so that they can protect their assets for themselves, their spouse, and their loved ones.
Well, it sounds like a really great idea. I suggest you call my attorney, Barry Siegel, and he will be glad to set up an appointment and explain everything.
That's 4
to you
espresso shots in
more
that.
detail. His number, toll free, 1-855-FLA-3782.
I rarely drink the whole cup, though.
That you heard it on the Steve Kane Show.
Listen to the
Well, thank
Steve
you,
Kane
E.M.
Show
Johnson.
on iHeartRadio. Just search for www.
All right, welcome back. I'm Brian Craig. This is Florida's longest running radio show, The Steve Kane Show, on the radio since 1977, talking about the occupation of the Capitol Hill district up there in Seattle, what Trump and Barr are doing, what everyone's trying to do, and we'll go to the phones. You're on the radio. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Ohio.
Yeah, go ahead, Ohio.
Yeah, that's over, by the way.
What do you mean it's over? They, I don't see that in the news. I'll look it up during the break, but I'll check it out. Richie the bus driver, you're on the air.
Disagree with you, and I'm going to explain to you why. Your theory is great, but as your theory works out, the President of the United States, which is under his presidency, is totally under siege here by the leftists of this country. He sits back and looks impotent. He opened his mouth and he said, "If you don't do something, I will."
Yeah.
But and what happens? And I watched a statue being ripped down of Christopher Columbus in Virginia last night with the mob and nothing done. They're trying to make it. And then I watched. By the way, I watched all that time. I was watching the interview when they were trying to talk about how bad the police are. where the president said, I'm 100% law and order police president, and they're trying to make the police look like animals, and did the left. And what happens the next city this goes to? It makes Trump look like there's chaos in the country and he doesn't know how to handle.
Well, no. In fact, if you look at what's going on, okay, in this instance, why was this allowed to happen? Why were activists allowed to take over a police precinct, take over an entire zone, and set up a commune and declare independent status in this zone? Why was that allowed? Who let it happen?
The left, the governor, all of them.
In fact, the governor, the city council, the mayor, they're all leftist out there, and these are their constituents, and they've lost control of their mob. So, the government out there, this is only happening because it's an extreme leftist state and an extreme leftist city. This isn't Dallas, Texas. This isn't New York City. This wouldn't even be allowed in New York City. This is different than Occupy Wall Street. And what's happening here is, just like with the shutdowns in Michigan to try to damage the economy, I think it's viewed by most people as leftist doing things to other leftists. And a state like Washington is going to go Democrat no matter what. Anyway, so.
What you're saying, the visual of what it looks like for this, it makes the president look like impotent.
Who told you that? Who said that? Was it Chris Wallace? What pundit said that on Fox yesterday that you're parroting?
Nobody. But what happens if they go to another city?
What happens if they go to another city? They're not in another. If they go to another city and do this, it'll probably be a leftist city. But, yeah.
Is Minnesota a leftist place when it took over the police?
Well, it's a different type of leftist. Here I am drinking my Starbucks coffee. Seattle is the home of Starbucks, grunge rock, and metrosexual millennials that wear those winter caps even during the summertime. You know what I'm talking about? The art crowd and things like this. It's different than Minnesota. These are extreme leftist pseudo-intellectuals, and this is not something that would be allowed to happen in other American cities.
They got AK-47s. They've got a barricade. They took the barricades. They won't let anyone. There'll be a major. In other words, they declare independence from the United States of America.
Yeah.
And with the president, I'm going to say it right up front. If you let this go any further, and I'm not talking about Ruby Bridge.
Well, I heard the entire media talk about how we have a very weak federal system and states' rights are reign supreme. Right? Remember they were telling us that a few weeks back during the coronavirus pandemic. This sounds like a local issue to me.
It isn't local at all. You can't be.
It is. Waco, Texas. But that was, well, hold on a second. Waco was an ATF issue, right? ATF. There was a weapons violation, and there was I can't remember the exact thing that happened in Ruby Ridge. There was a similar thing in Ruby Ridge. There has not been any federal crimes that I know of committed in the Chaz up there in Seattle. This to me looks like a local issue for the local leftists to deal with.
Yeah, I get it, but at the same time, the president infused himself by saying, if you don't do something, I will, which it's like a bait trap for him. His mouth shut. It isn't local, but he's.
See, Richie, listen. I believe that 5 to 10% of Antifa are either undercover federal agents or informants. Okay, that's what I believe. I believe that the president said what he said yesterday to get more of these leftists there, and that they've left all the utilities on, including cell phone, internet, water, even trash collection. Right now, the largest surveillance operation to take place since September 11th is going on inside this zone, monitoring all forms of communication in and out to identify the leaders of Antifa so that Barr can go in and arrest them because they declared them a domestic terrorist organization a couple weeks back. That's what's going on here. And what the president did was embolden them out there. And believe me, as this gets to be more and more of a high-profile news story, the Antifa leadership will be communicating with people inside that zone. And that is what Barr and Trump are doing together. In my opinion, does that sound far-fetched to you?
No, not at all.
I bet you all the intelligence satellites that usually are over Russia or the Middle East or everything have been redirected to Seattle right now.
But at the same time, we're 4.5 months away from an election, and the President of the United States, it continues and continues. It's not like that Wall Street where they didn't have weapons. These people are militant with guns. I mean, this is like the takeover of a group in the 60s with weapons. It's like, if you're, as a president, if you look weak, I'm sorry to say it, you're going to have to.
The president looks weak because liberal Seattle city council person gave the keys to some activists? What?
Looks weak because he said, if you don't do something, I will, and if he doesn't, he's going to look weak. If he hadn't opened his...
Yeah, weak to who? Chris Wallace?
They're going to plaster it out. They're going to put the blame on him for losing control of
losing control of liberal Seattle, Washington. Yeah.
Be the only place. This could be the beginning of something big.
Really? Do you see them pulling crap like this even in liberal New York City and getting away with it? I'm not talking about a Occupy Wall Street sitting down in the street. I'm talking about Occupy. Do you really think the governor of New York would allow people like this to take over a New York City police precinct and hold it and put up...
You asked me a question. I didn't think the governor or the mayor of New York would let what happened to Manhattan happen either, and they did, because they got their hands tied.
So you think, notice I didn't say the mayor, because the mayor, he's a radical. So you believe Governor Cuomo would allow activists to take over a New York City police precinct?
I think they would put the blame on Trump, not on the governor.
Oh my goodness. Who would buy... Let me ask, okay, when you say that, the president looks weak, or, in Seattle, which is absurd, but he looks weak to who? Does he look weak to people that would vote for him, or looks weak to Democrats that wouldn't vote for him anyway?
He's going to look weak to everybody in this country if it spreads. And if that, they're trying to make it look like he's lost control of the country now.
But no control was lost. See, the government in Seattle walked them in and gave up this. No, they didn't take over anything. It was handed to them.
What happens if they do go to New York? Let's do a hypothetical, and now they got themselves boxed in the whole Wall Street area.
Wouldn't be allowed. It would not be allowed. It wouldn't be allowed because unlike Seattle, if they took over Wall Street and occupied the stock market, that wouldn't be allowed because the financial district. Seattle's irrelevant. The only thing we need Seattle for is, grunge music and Starbucks coffee. It's a relevant city.
Ask you a question. If you've seen all these statues being torn down, which is relevant because that's part of the movement. You see all these Confederate statues?
Yeah.
Found Christopher Columbus, and the cops didn't do a thing until after it was done last night. I watched that.
Yeah, let them do it. That's the smart thing to do. Let them tear them down.
It looks like...
It doesn't look weak. Not to me. It looks like a bunch of spoiled babies that have too much time on their hands because of the shutdown. And they need to reopen the schools, is what it seems like to me.
If you have a president, and I'm saying I love President Trump, no I do. If you have a president that's saying, if you don't do something, I will, the buck can only go so far.
Okay. All right, Richie, I got a break, but thanks for the call. 48 minutes after the hour. We'll take our last break of the first hour and be back after this.
Do you suffer from foot pain that just won't go away? Do you have balance issues and are you afraid of falling? Are you in need of orthotics? Are you a diabetic and in need of diabetic shoes and custom inserts? These are just a few reasons why you would call the Soul Authority today. Whether it's in the comfort of your own home or coming to the office at one of our 2 convenient locations in Pembroke Pines or Tamarack, the Soul Authority can take care of all of your podiatric needs. If you're a Medicare recipient, call us today at 954-597 954-597-7060. That's 954-597-7060. And you can also find us online at thesoulauthority.com. That's THESOLE authority.com. Call the Soul Authority today and start taking care of your feet.
Stop paying an
Johnny,
outrageous fortune for your tires. Go easy on your budget and buy your tires at Friendly Tire in Margate, where they have all the major brands like Goodyear and Firestone at discount prices that absolutely can't be beaten. Steve Kane's tires for his Toyota van at the other shops, $175 a tire. At Friendly Tire, just $75 a tire. That's a $100 savings per tire. Tires for my daughter Emily's car, $135 at the shops around town. The price at Friendly Tire, only $65. That's a $70 savings per tire. These prices are out the door and on the road. Free mounting and balancing and no added charges. Friendly Tire have a great selection of good used tires too, starting at just $30 for most cars. Call my good buddy Friendly Mike at Friendly Tire. Tell him what you drive and he will give you a great low price right over the phone at 954-977-9445. 954-977-9445. Online, friendlytire.net.
Listen to The Steve Kane Show on iHeartRadio. Just search for WW.
All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. This is the Steve Kane Radio Show, Florida's longest-running radio show. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. So that's what's going on. You know, this whole premise of Richie, now I'll throw this out to you and the audience. Richie's analysis, does that sound like the tone that was on Fox News Channel yesterday to people? Kind of sounds like the Fox News Channel tone to me. You know, what's going on in that area, as out of control as it may look to people, okay, it has nothing to do with President Trump. It doesn't look as if President Trump is out of control. Nobody buys that. It looks as if the leftists can't control their own people. See, this is what happens with Democrats from time to time, okay? And this is a problem that Democrats at all levels nationwide run into quite regularly. Democrats are always using the extreme leftist, telling them this, telling them that. You know, the issues change election year after election year. And they never expect the leftists to take action. They just tell them what they want to hear at their rallies. Okay, defund the police and all these different things. That's what's in vogue right now, without ever having plans on these things happening. And from time to time, the activists get emboldened and take power. You know, Occupy Wall Street, and you remember Occupy Wall Street became a national movement. It was in cities all over the country. And it got out of hand. I mean, they were defecating in police cars in New York. There were physical and sex assaults being committed at some of the Occupy Wall Street locations nationwide. There were some really bad ones out in Houston, Texas. And the one in New York was really getting out of control, And what they did eventually clean it up. They cleaned it up when it got, but there was a time in the beginning, if you remember, that the Democrats, and Obama was president then, were in solidarity with the Occupy Wall Street movement originally, but they hung around too long. And when they started using the police cars as toilets and the crime, and they were going in the streets and everything nationwide, it got to be too much. And they finally said, you're not useful to us anymore, and they ran them off, and that was the end of that. Similar things going on here in Seattle, in the Chaz right now. You know, the Democrats have a lot of different things going on to try to cost this election, okay, to try to stop Trump from getting reelected. And I would have thought a couple months back, you know, when the coronavirus pandemic began, it was pretty scary. You know, it was pretty scary. It felt so good the other day. I was at Target, and this was so exciting to see first time I had seen this, I actually took a picture and put it on my Instagram. Brian Craig Show on Instagram, by the way. Full shelves of toilet paper. They had 2 aisles completely filled at Target with toilet paper. Remember when you couldn't get toilet paper? Remember when you went to the store and you couldn't buy food? Because it was scary, wasn't it? I loaded up. I did a huge buy of food. I've got a refrigerator in the garage as well as one in the kitchen, and we filled them both up because we didn't know in the early days of what was going on. I know a lot of you did too. Oh my goodness, you know, we've been eating lately the things we bought that we normally would not. 10-pound bag of rice. What the hell am I going to do with that? I'll eventually eat it, I guess. I don't know. I'm keeping some of it through hurricane season. But it was a pretty scary time, and I thought, well, this is it. You know, I mean, you know, obviously they're exploiting this to try to cost Trump the election. This has got to be their last-ditch effort because of, you know, we were right out of the impeachment. The president was acquitted, and then boom, this. And I thought, well, you know, the unemployment, the economy. The stores are out of basic supplies. Remember seeing the people on television talking about that from grocery chains, talking about how they couldn't keep up with the supply chain and things like hand sanitizer and Lysol were impossible to get. And we got through that. And Trump came out stronger than ever. And then they started this business. And this defund the police movement and the demonstrations of last week after the murder of George Floyd. And now the latest scheme is this occupying out in Seattle. And it is very possible that they will attempt to do this in other cities. If they try to do it in extreme leftist cities, they'll have success because the people that run those local cities don't want to alienate people they think are their base. If they try to do this in conservative places or moderately liberal places, as crazy as this seems, New York City, which is liberal, is those are conservative Democrats compared to what you have out in Washington State, which is hard to imagine, but it's true. They're not leftist by the standards that you would apply to those out in Seattle right now in the Chaz. They're going to find that they will not have success in other places. You know, because of the shutdown that is ending nationwide. I mean, gyms are opening, movie theaters are opening, everything. Finally, the final things. Next week or so, we're going to have bowling alleys and movie theaters open here in South Florida. I mean, it's amazing. You know? And people, even in Democrat towns, have been itching to reopen and get back to work and have a normal life. And they're not going to put up with a bunch of anarchist millennials, like in the Chaz in Seattle, and other cities, stopping them from reopening. People are pretty fed up. They want to get back to a normal life. So, and even if this did spread with any success to other cities, how is President Trump going to be blamed for this? You know, it's just like in Michigan. The governor of Michigan and other governors too, but she's the most high profile, have resisted reopening because they want to try to hurt the economy to hurt Trump. Who got the blame for that? Right, the Democrats that were keeping the economy shut down got the blame, not the president. He's the Teflon Don. Teflon Don 2. You know, they don't understand. Nothing they try sticks to him. Those of us who support Trump, he gets the blame for nothing. Nothing. No, I didn't run out of toilet paper myself either. Anybody out there run out of toilet paper? I didn't run out of toilet paper. But still, it's nice to see it back in the stores. We're back. The stores are back. The supply chain is back. You can get what you need to get. And after the American people suffered for a couple of months during shutdowns and lack of toilet paper and Lysol and hand sanitizer, they're not going to put up with agitators in their communities now trying to stop them from getting back to normal. It's just not good. And if they do, it's not going to be Trump that gets the blame. And I'm telling you, Trump is not going to be sending in any federal troops in there. No more Wacos, no more Ruby Ridges, no more federal sieges. This is up to the locals to deal with. And you know what will happen in Seattle eventually? Think about this now. 500 regular people, not activists, live within that zone. So that means how many people live just outside of it? The community, the liberal, leftist, normal residents of Seattle, Washington is the force that's going to stop what's going on there, because at some point, they're gonna want to get their lives back to normal, and they're not going to be able to with this going on in their community. And believe me, Seattle eventually will clean this up. New York was welcoming the Occupy Wall Streeters for a long time, and then eventually they sent in the police and the fire department. They needed the fire hoses from the fire department to clean out the area because it was just a mess, because they were using the street and the sidewalks as toilets. But it was the Democrat New Yorkers who said enough is enough with the Occupy Wall Street, and that was it. It was ended. Same thing's going to happen in Seattle. Seattle residents will be the ones who put an end to it. It's nothing to worry about. Now, I was talking to Steve this morning. He sounded a lot like Richie. There's a lot of concern out there. There's nothing to worry about in Seattle. Believe me. Okay, let's take our break for the top of the hour, all right? My name is Brian Craig. This is The Steve Kane Show. Don't go anywhere.
5.3 FM, 96.9 FM, 103.9 FM, and AM 1470. WWNN Pompano Beach is the Florida Money Talk Network.
Are you between the ages of 18 and 60 and have thought about getting life insurance but never had the time? Or thought life insurance was too much work? Well, now is the time. Life insurance has changed. People are living longer, so rates are being reduced. These new life insurance policies also have living benefits, which means the owner can accelerate a portion of the policy's initial death benefit should the insured become critically, chronically, or terminally ill. And the majority of applicants get approved without a medical exam and simplified underwriting, which means you're approved even faster. IWIL Advisors can still assist anyone from the ages of 60 to 85 with life insurance. Call Debbie and her team to learn more. 954-753-8080. 954-753-8080.
Folks, I'm here with my attorney, Barry Siegel, the
right back,
very
guys.
fine attorney who executed my revocable living trust. Now, I had a revocable living trust when I went to see Barry, and I discovered that just having it's not enough. You have to keep it updated. Give me the reasons for that, Barry.
Well, Steve, things change as time goes by, and that's why it's important, just like you go to the doctor and get checkups every so often, it's important to get your revocable living trust and other estate planning documents checked up upon on a regular basis. I would suggest every 3 years. And some of the reasons why you would need to update your estate plan is, first of all, some of the provisions that you may have made, your beneficiaries, your trustees, you may need to change them for one reason or another. Maybe your trustee's no longer with us, maybe they're not the best choice anymore, maybe you had more children and you need to put them in as beneficiaries as well. Also,
in my case, my executor had died, so I had no one representing me. Today I have Brian. We made him the executor.
And that's exactly the point. You need to review and dust off that old estate plan and take a look and see what you have to make sure it's up to date. You also want to make sure that it's up to date because laws change from time to time, and also things in your financial
Make sure you guys subscribe.
Changed, hopefully for the better. And if that's the case, we need to make sure that your planning is up to date, so that the bottom line is, we want your estate plan to work for you when you need it. So that's why it's so important to make sure that your estate plan, and specifically your revocable living trust, is up to date.
The bottom line is, call Barry Siegel at the Siegel Law Group, make an appointment, go in, make sure that your revocable living trust is updated. The number, toll-free, 1-855-FLA-3782. Be sure to mention to Barry that Steve Kane sent you.
95.3 FM, 96.9 FM, 103.9 FM, and AM 1470. WWNN Pompano Beach is the Florida Money Talk Network.
You are listening to South Florida's longest running radio show, The Steve Kane Show. To call the show toll-free, dial 1-888-GO-GAME.
Block who needs to be blocked?
That's 1-888-GO-GAME.
All right, welcome back, everyone. My name is Brian Craig. This is the Steve Kane Radio Show, Florida's longest running radio show. Welcome back, everyone. Hour number 2 has begun. It's Thursday morning. Our number toll-free, 1-888-GO-KANE. 1-888-465-2631. We spent the first hour talking about what's going on in Seattle, and I would certainly entertain calls on that, and we'll revisit that again in the show. I want to talk a little bit about Gone with the Wind and what's going on with Gone with the Wind. I'm of the opinion that Gone with the Wind is the greatest American film ever made. I watch Gone with the Wind usually about once a year with my wife. We love Gone with the Wind, and we own it on iTunes. And there are always things that leftists are looking to ban. It used to be the works of Mark Twain. It used to be Catcher in the Rye. And do you know when there was all the talk of banning Catcher in the Rye? I reacted to that. It's a long time ago. What do you think my reaction was when there was all Catcher in the Rye? Did they still read Catcher in the Rye in high school or 8th grade? Whenever you used to read it, but Catcher in the Rye. There used to be a big movement. We got to take Catcher in the Rye out of the bookstores and school libraries and everywhere, and I reacted to that, and my reaction was this, and you'll probably guess. What do you think my reaction was? You know what my reaction was? I went to a bookstore, bought a copy of Catcher in the Rye, and read it. I was interested in reading it. I just was seeing online all this talk of Gone with the Wind being pulled by the HBO online service, that Amazon sales of Gone with the Wind have gone through the roof. They're going to bring back HBO. They're going to bring back Gone with the Wind with some type of denouncement of the offensive depictions inside of the film. I do believe that Gone with the Wind is the greatest American movie. I know Steve will disagree. A lot of you don't know. Steve has a master's degree in film, and he used to be a professor of film in school, and he'll probably tell us On the Waterfront is the greatest American movie, and it certainly is a great movie, but I think Gone with the Wind is the greatest American movie, and I also think it's the most important American movie, and I don't think it glorifies slavery at all. Its importance. One of the most famous actresses of all time is Hattie McDaniel, who was the first black woman to win an Oscar ever. It may have been the first black person to win an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. And I know there was a lot of controversy. She was not allowed to go to the premiere of the movie because it premiered in Atlanta, Georgia, and the Democrats in Atlanta had segregated movie theaters. And there was even controversy when she attended the Oscars because of the Hollywood racism back in those days with having Hattie McDaniel there. But it's not just it's the most important and greatest American film for a lot of reasons. One of them is that Hattie McDaniel in 1939 won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress, which is very, very important, and it shouldn't be silenced just for that. But it also I consider it to be a primary historical source. There were Civil War veterans and a lot of Americans who lived through the Civil War who were alive at the time. Yes, a lot of people say Citizen Kane is the greatest American movie. Citizen Kane is good, but incredibly overrated. It's actually a biopic. Do you know? Citizen Kane is about Randolph Hearst, and Rosebud is not a sled. Everyone thinks Rosebud is the sled that Kane had in Citizen Kane. Rosebud was the young woman he married, was a reference to her vagina in Citizen Kane. Not a lot of people know that. It is true. That's what Rosebud was, not the sled that they burned at the end of the movie, okay? But anyway, back to Gone with the Wind. It's very important because it shows the antebellum South. It shows the Civil War, the post-Civil War period down there. I do not believe it glorifies slavery, but it's a movie that was made for that time. You can't go back in time and rewrite history, and you know, you have to understand things. Books are written for a period. Movies are made in a period. You know, I can remember when I was a teenager. Now this was back in the 80s. You know, like a lot of teenagers at the time, I was all into the Luke and Laura on General Hospital. Anyone remember Luke and Laura on General Hospital? I don't watch soap operas anymore, but I got hooked on General Hospital during that Luke and Laura phase. I had a cousin I used to stay with, and she was into it, and I got hooked on Luke and Laura. Well, after Luke and Laura, they had another couple that were doctors, and they were married, and the husband was white, and the wife was black. And this was in the late 80s. This is like between 86 and 89, I don't know the exact year, and they were the first interracial couple on daytime television, and this was in the late 1980s. They were the first, it was the first interracial coupling on daytime television in the late 1980s on American television. So things have come a long way, baby, isn't it? And yeah, it's true. It's true. And you know, Gone with the Wind is a movie of its time, and but I think the movie's pretty liberal. And in its depiction of things. But anyway, this banning of it, this is something. It's not stopping. There's other films and television shows that they're banning, including police shows. Police shows are being taken off the air. I heard yesterday that Cops, after what, 30 years, is being canceled. I was reading an article this morning. It was Cops that started calling the bad boys or these criminals. There's other shows and things that are being taken off, just like these monuments. And here's a danger that's going on that I don't think a lot of people realize. I own Gone with the Wind on iTunes. I don't own any DVDs or CDs any longer. And one of the biggest mistakes of my life was when iTunes and everything came around, I threw out my CD collection. I had a massive collection of CDs. I figured, who's going to want these anymore? And I got rid of them, you know. But most people do not own physical copies of film or television programs anymore. And I remember when Gone with the Wind used to cost $100 to buy it on VHS tape at Blockbuster Video. Can you imagine? And there's a big danger we're running into. Films and television shows, and even books, they get banned. Books, TV programs, and movies are mostly digital now. I got rid of almost all my books. I read, I like to read. I don't have as much time to read as I would like, but I enjoy reading. I used to buy books and keep books. And now I've got, on iBooks, on my iPad and iPhone, I've got a whole library of books. I own very few physical copies of books anymore. You know, I don't own a single CD. I don't own a single Blu-ray, DVD, or any of that. Okay? Everything is in the cloud. Everything's in the cloud. What's different about Gone with the Wind being taken off and these police shows being taken off, because we don't own physical copies anymore, the leftists that run the streaming services or other things, when they decide we're pulling Gone with the Wind, if you don't have a physical copy, you're out of luck. It's book burning with the snap of their fingers, with just a delete key on a keyboard. And the banning of books, television shows, and movies is more severe now than ever before, because no one owns physical copies of these things anymore, not like they used to. Okay? So, if they decided, for example, Huck Finn, Tom Sawyer, Catcher in the Rye, and all these other books that the leftists over the years have found offensive, and they pull them from Kindle and all of those things, you don't have the physical books anymore like you used to keep year after year and hand around and pass around. They're gone. You know? We're getting to a point where the next generation or two may not even be familiar with any of the classics, movies or books, because when the leftists banned them, they will never have had a physical copy of any movies, any TV shows, or any books, and they won't even know that they've been disappeared because everything is in the cloud. Like I own Gone with the Wind on my iTunes. Well, that's in the cloud. It's up there in the cloud. They could get rid of that like that, and then all of a sudden I don't own Gone with the Wind anymore, and I can't go out and buy it. I remember back in the 80s and 90s, there was a big controversy when Disney banned Song of the South. And now Song of the South, I saw Song of the South in the movie theater. It was a double feature. When I was a kid, it was Song of the South and 101 Dalmatians double feature. I remember saw it when I was young. And Disney banned Song of the South from their release on VHS and DVD, in this country at least. Now, bootlegs made it around, and people had bootleg VHS tapes of it, and they would sell them. Even independent video stores would sell and rent bootleg copies of Song of the South. Today, okay, the Disney Plus streaming service, they don't have Song of the South on it. And most people are not familiar with Song of the South that are of the generation that have children. You know, the childbearing year, the 20s, 30s, even people in their early 40s, they've never heard of Song of the South. They've never seen it. It'll never be on Disney Plus. And Disney, they're not going to release it ever again on disc, and they're never going to put it on their Disney Plus service. And we could find a point in the next 20 years where people will have forgotten about Song of the South, and they'll never even know that it's been disappeared. And Song of the South is not only a great Disney film, it's a very important historical film. Bear Rabbit and Tar Baby, Tar Baby was a lot of slave owners, and this is where it comes from in Song of the South. Many slave owners would put black tar on fences so that if a slave tried to climb the fence or touch the fence, they would have tar on them. And you know how hard it is to get tar off, right? That's where Tar Baby comes from. So there's a lot of historic importance that come from films like Song of the South. And now, without DVDs, VHS tape, with everything electronic, books, movies, television, this talk of disappearing this and disappearing that movie, it's never been more serious and more real than it is right now, because very few people own any of these things anymore. Steve actually has, I don't know, thousands of movies and TV shows on DVD in his home. So Steve is kind of like the archivist of all these things. And I know he's got Song of the South. I know he's got Song of the South on DVD. But I don't know if he's got Gone with the Wind. I don't know. We'll find out when he gets here. But it's a very serious problem. And there are things that you wouldn't think would be banned. People say, well, Gone with the Wind, it's almost 100 years ago. A show like Mad Men will be on the chopping block, because Mad Men, if you look back, the depictions in Mad Men are totally sexist and filled with nothing but date rape, basically, and that's recent. They're talking about taking Adam 12 off of television reruns. Adam 12. There is nothing less offensive than Adam 12, but it's going to be gone. Going to be gone. I'll tell you another one. I'll tell you, there's two movies that are classic films that are going to be disappeared. Okay? One of them, eventually, Silence of the Lambs. There's already controversy around Silence of the Lambs. Silence of the Lambs, one of the great American movies. The serial killer is a man who is killing women to do what? Make a bodysuit so that he can transform into a woman. There's a lot of, they would never make a movie like that today, and that's on the list of movies they're going after. There's another one with Tom Hanks. Okay? Bachelor Party with Tom Hanks. There's a scene in Tom Hanks' movie Bachelor Party where one of his friends has sex with this woman, and right after they have sex, he finds out the woman is a transgendered woman, actually a man, because he goes to the toilet and pees standing up. Remember that? And what happens? He becomes physically ill and throws up. You don't think Bachelor Party with Tom Hanks is going to be on that list? Of course it will. You can't judge things of the past based on today's standards. But you know what? If they decided tomorrow, Bachelor Party and Silence of the Lambs, because of its depiction of transgendered people or those wishing to become, is in a negative light and disappear. How many people own copies of Bachelor Party? How many people really own a copy today, other than Steve Kane, of Silence of the Lambs? So don't take lightly this banning of movies and books that's going on. This is the most serious time of the banning of content like that in our history, because there's no physical copies of these things really anymore. We're getting to this there's no physical copies of hardly anything. There's not even a bookstore or a video store anymore. Okay, listen, we will take our break 21 minutes after the hour. If you're on hold, stand by. I'd like to take you, I brought up a lot of topics today. I will keep it open phone so long as it is relevant to the discussion. My name is Brian Craig. You are listening to Florida's longest running radio show, The Steve Kane Show, on the radio since 1977. We'll be right back.
It's summertime, and that means backyard barbecues and hanging out by the pool.
Steve Kane Show.
Right around the corner, get Dad the gift
Steve Kane Show.
dads will love. A new grill
Hold on.
from Ace Hardware Deerfield or Beach Ace Hardware in Lauderdale by the Sea. They are your grilling headquarters. They have an incredible selection on all the top brands.
Caught me off guard again. What's up?
And the best deals around on every type of
What, Bachelor Party?
gas
Oh,
grills,
yeah, 1984?
and
Oh, you mean the book?
delivery is available too. Ace Hardware
Yeah.
Deerfield is just above the
Fahrenheit
Hillsborough,
451.
That's right.
That'll be the next step.
Gotta memorize
You
everything.
don't want to give it?
Yeah.
We'll just catch it.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the weird thing about science fiction.
It comes true.
We can grow into it.
Steve Kane Show.
All the time when I call in, we have
Hey, Jim, hold on.
different options to try to help people with their cognition here. I will repeat what I say all the time. This is called age management, folks. It's not just, hey, come in and get some hormones and feel better. We have options. Hormones, by the way, is one of the greatest ways to get your cognition back, get your hormones back. We have other options. One of the biggest things going on these days is peptide therapy. These are actually FDA-approved therapies that are designed to help you regain your cognition. We have vitamins, intravenous vitamin therapies that are designed. All of these things, by the way, are absolutely 100% natural. This is exactly how the body is designed to have cognition. And Mr. Biden could avail himself of all of these things. Anybody out there, particularly if you identify with Joe Biden's problems here, a lot of us can. Come and talk to us. We can fix your cognition. It's pretty cool.
I'll tell you, Dr. Mitch Matez, a lot of people assume with aging, oh, well, these things are going to happen. I'm going to lose my sex drive. I'm going to lose my hair. I'm going to want to sleep in the middle of the day. I'm not going to have energy. I'm not going to be able to remember, forgetting things. That's just part of aging. Well, these things are true, but you can do something about it with hormone replacement pellet therapy. And hormone replacement pellet therapy is a totally 100% natural process, right? These are natural hormones that your body makes naturally.
That is correct. Everything I'm talking about is natural. The peptides are proteins that are in your body that are specifically designed to improve the health of your cells. by manipulating these things, we can help people get energy, we can help them lose body fat, increase their lean muscle mass, improve the health of their arteries, fix their fatty livers. There's a whole lot of things that can be done. It's all safe, it's all effective, it's all pretty easy. But you have to come and see us if you want to get it done.
Well, that's the first step. And the consultation with Dr. Mitch Matez, if you mention the Steve Kane Show, is totally free. So call his office, mention the Steve Kane Show, avail yourself of the no-charge consultation with Dr. Mitch Matez, 561-953-5490, 561-953-5490, online, hormonetherapybocaratone.com. All right, Dr. Matez, we will talk later in the week.
Yes, we will. Have a great day, Brian. Thanks very much.
Take care.
Listen to the Steve Kane Show on iHeartRadio. Just search for WW.
All right, welcome back. All right, let's go to the phones. You're on the radio. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Jim from New York. How you doing?
Hey, Jim from New York. What's up?
Well, you're talking about the movie. It's funny because even in contemporary issues that's happening, I was watching Back to the Future, and I'm sure you've seen it a bunch of times. There's a scene where Marty's in the diner writing a note to Doc Brown saying, hey, when I go back in time, you'll be shot by terrorists.
Yes.
If you watch it now on TV, and the first time I saw this, I had to do a double take. I rewound it and said, wait a minute, did I just miss something? Not only did they remove the words that is verbal when he said, you'll be shot by terrorists, they whited it out on the paper that he was writing it on.
You know, I've heard about that. Yeah. I have actually heard about that. Yeah, they did. Yes, you are correct. You're correct. I'll look them up online. There's more than one instance in Back to the Future where they've gone back into the film and re-edited it to do things about that. Because if you remember, it was Libyan terrorists killed Doc Brown in the beginning for stealing the plutonium to power the time machine, and yeah, that's correct. And yeah, no, you're absolutely correct. Yeah, and that's well, because yeah, and who owns like me, two stupid things I did. I threw out all my CDs and I threw out my DVDs, years ago. This change you're talking about in Back to the Future, which is another one of the great American films, you wouldn't even know it. It's like the Mandela effect. You wouldn't even know it because that's such a minor thing that they changed, but they've altered it.
And I was, I guess, ignorantly clairvoyant enough to keep all my hard copies, VCR tapes, and DVDs and things. So, but in this case, he doesn't even specify. He did not write or state.
Yeah.
A particular group. It was terrorists. A terrorist is offended. Give me a break. It's typical Hollywood, typical of what they do. The revisionists. They're trying to rewrite history, and forget history, erase history.
Well, they do this. A number of years ago, a very terrible remake came out of Red Dawn. And it was, Red Dawn was a great movie with Patrick Swayze, but the remake was awful. Josh Peck from Drake and Josh from Nickelodeon was in it. And they did an entire digital makeover of that movie. The movie was filmed, and the U.S. wasn't invaded by the Soviet Union. It was invaded by China. And the studio, after the movie was completely made and edited and done, and the studio was afraid it would offend China because they do release movies in China. So they went back and digitally changed every uniform and every military vehicle in the movie and made them North Korean from China. I mean, I'm not kidding. So yeah, so what you're talking about is people talk about the Mandela effect, which is and I'm not going to get sidetracked into the Mandela effect, but just to tell you, the Mandela effect is when you see something and you remember it being different in a movie or something. And it's a conspiracy theory, and most of it's nonsense. But there's a lot of it, like what you just talked about in the re-editing of Back to the Future. Why would they white out terrorists? Why? And that's a major plot point in Back to the Future about the Libyan terrorist. All right, appreciate the call. Take care. All right, good morning. You're on the radio. Yes. Once, twice, 3 times a lady. All right, yeah, but that's what goes on, people. All right, our number, toll free, 1-888-GO-CANE, 1-888-465-2631. So that's the deal with going through. Because, usually when they talk about banning books and things like this and movies, listen, this taking down of the monuments, the taking down of the monuments is a very bad idea. It's a bad idea, but there's a purpose behind it. I don't believe in honoring the Confederate generals, okay? The Confederate generals were insurrectionists who committed treason against the United States. But those memorials that are up, that were put up by Southern Democrats back in the day, are important to stay up. Because what happens is, you walk by, you're out somewhere, we're in the deep South here, you're walking around with the family, and all of a sudden you come up to a statue and you read the plaque. And then you learn something about the community that you're in, or about American culture. These things are very important. And the reason that the leftists take down all of these things, whether it's Christopher Columbus or the Civil War monuments, okay? The people that actually do the tearing down, they're just, they don't know they're not sophisticated enough to understand. But the leftist activists push for this. And the reason they do that is when you tear down all these monuments and you get rid of these movies and you get rid of these books, you're erasing the history, and it will be rewritten based on their image and their viewpoint. Don't you understand this? That's what's going on here, okay? They want to rewrite American history and redefine our culture. And without our monuments and our great movies and our classic literature, American literature, the new monuments, the new movies, and the new books will have it in the image of the leftist, see? So there's a very devious point behind the book burning movement. Yeah, and it is 1984. I don't like to use that reference because every time there's a president, the opposing party always talking, this is like 1984. But this is actually 1984 we are in right now. And the other one, Rich came in during the break and mentioned this one too. This is very true. Fahrenheit 451. This is it. With these films. But that's the. But again, we're coming up. It is an election year. Things are not as bad as they seem in this country. There's an illusion being put on of lawlessness, of disorder, of a lack of unity. See, this country's electorate, there's 2 groups of people in America, right? The ones who vote and the ones who don't. And there has been a lot of unity in this country under President Trump. President Trump has brought unity as a president to this country like no other president in my lifetime has. And, that unity, they're trying to create an illusion that there is not national unity. But you know what? There is national unity in this country. So with whatever they're doing in Seattle, with this movie or with that book or that television show, so what? They're not going to air Cops or Live PD this weekend, a lot of people may say. Hollywood, well, let me take a break and I'll tell you what's going on with Cops and Live PD, because there's a big change coming to Hollywood, and I'll tell you what it is when we get back. I'm Brian. This is the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest running radio show. We'll take our break and be right back.
5.3 FM, 96.9 FM, 103.9 FM, and AM 1470. WWNN Pompano Beach is the Florida Money Talk Network.
Attention homeowners, this is Scott from Cut My Kilowatts. I'm here to cut your electric bill and save you a lot of money. Perhaps even eliminate your electric bill altogether. We do this by making your entire home energy efficient, by upgrading some or all of the following: roofs, doors, windows, insulating your attic, AC systems and ducts, hot water heaters, and even adding solar. Energy efficient improvements that actually pay for themselves over a short period of time. Our program is designed to make the savings on your electric bill pay for all all or part of your low monthly payments. The PACE program is government sponsored and gives you up to 30 years to pay. Requires no credit check, no money down, no income verification, and no payments for up to 18 months. You only need to be current on your mortgage and taxes for the last 3 years to qualify. Energy savings and hurricane solutions made easy. Call 954-939-1500. 954-939-1500 to start saving money now.
This is Steve Kane. I'm sitting here with my good friend and my attorney, Barry Siegel of the Siegel Law Group. Barry, you offer a service called elder law. And since I'm getting up there in years, I'd like to find out exactly what that is and when and if I need it.
Sure, Steve. Elder law, think of it as asset protection. Now, as we age and get into our retirement years, the number one concern or threat to our assets is the cost of long-term care. Care either at home, in an assisted living facility, or in a nursing home can be very, very expensive. And it can eat away at your assets. It can even deplete your assets to nothing. Imagine if you lose all your assets, you have to go into a facility and your spouse at home has nothing left. Or you may end up not having any assets left to leave to your loved ones. So with elder law, we are able to look at different government benefits that may be available to you or your spouse, such as Medicaid or veteran benefits. And even if you don't think that you're eligible for these benefits, you'd be
Platoon
surprised.
makes America look bad.
That's what elder law attorneys do, is
That
we
won't
help
go.
people who may not be eligible.
The
at
Green
this
Berets,
point
that'll
become
go.
eligible so that they can protect their assets for themselves, their spouse, and their loved ones.
Well, it sounds like a really great idea. I suggest you call my attorney, Barry Siegel, and he will be glad to set up an appointment and explain everything to you in even more detail.
Welcome, everyone. Subscribe if you're not subscribed, all right?
1-855-FLA.
Click that notification bell, too.
Mention that you heard it on the Steve Kane Show.
Listen to the Steve Kane Show
Well, thank you,
on
Liam.
Radio. Just search for WW.
All right, welcome back. I'm Brian Craig. This is Florida's longest running radio show, The Steve Kane Show. We're here live in the mornings from 6 until 9 a.m., overnight rebroadcast 7 nights a week from midnight until 6 a.m. All right, now, this business with television shows. Now there's a big ban on cop shows going on, okay? Cops and Live PD are the first victims of this. There is about to be a major change in what Hollywood produces. They already did it with the feminist takeover. Harvey Weinstein. After Harvey Weinstein, movies out of Hollywood and television shows out of Hollywood began to change. There's hardly a male character. Most television shows and movies that are being produced that are completely new concepts and content, and post Harvey Weinstein's Hollywood, are very different. Remember Home Alone? Let me give you an example. Home Alone, 1990. Macaulay Culkin, probably one of the most successful box office children's hits of all time. And there was an entire series of children's films for the next 10 years that were very successful based on that type of theme. Why was Home Alone so popular among kids with follow-up movies, not just sequels, but other movies that have the same thing? It's pretty simple. Why do kids love Home Alone? Kids love Home Alone because the premise of Home Alone is that the kid, Macaulay Culkin, I can't remember his character's name, the kid is outwitting the adults, Joe Pesci and the other guy, right? The kid is outwitting the adult. The parents are boobs in Home Alone. That's why it was such a hit. That's why kids love it. Hollywood's done a similar thing. Now all the men are boobs. The women are the leads, the supporting actors, and the ones with the solution. And men are complete idiots in pretty much every new movie and television show produced now. Now, with this new defund the police movement that's going on in the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd, they're pulling a lot of television shows, not just Cops and Live PD. There's a children's show I never heard of about Police Dogs. It's a cartoon. They're going to stop production of that. I was reading they're going to stop showing Adam 12, which is a Jack Webb series, which is a classic television show. And there'll be others because it shows police as being the good guys. That's why all these things are being pulled. Hollywood hasn't been making movies and television shows all year. They have run out of content because of the coronavirus shutdown. The shutdown shut down Hollywood production worldwide. So there are no new movies. The only movies that'll be coming out right now, there'll be movies starting to come out. Theaters are reopening. These were all things that were filmed prior to the pandemic. There are hardly any television shows that have not been seen yet. So right now, Hollywood is in pre-production on everything, television and film. And when we get the new wave of film and television, because they're pulling cops and all these things, there's going to be a big culture shift from Hollywood. And that culture shift is going to be what? It's going to be the cops are the bad guys now. The bad guys are now the good guys. And the cops are the bad guys. That's what's going to be the new theme out of Hollywood for film and television cop shows in the future. Every single one of them. There's a documentary on Hulu that I watched over the weekend. It's called Crime and Punishment. It's a couple years old, but I just saw it. Have any of you guys seen this? It's about stop and frisk, and it's about 12 New York City police officers. It's a documentary who refused to meet the summons quota and implement stop and frisk, and they were harassed, and they had a civil rights lawsuit, and it follows them and the harassment that they received. Have you seen this? It was 12 minority officers, some Hispanics, some black, female officers, and it was an interesting documentary. I watched it. It's on Hulu, and I came to realize they were showing these officers that were standing up against stop and frisk in New York. And apparently in New York, and this is what the documentary is about, even though quotas were outlawed, they still had quotas for summons, that each officer had a certain number of summons that they had to give out each and every month. And so goes the documentary and the New York 12, the New York PD 12 that had the civil rights lawsuit, and they were active duty officers. And when they would show the officers, they would show you their name and how long they've been an officer. Every single one of them, except maybe for one, had been an officer for less than 10 years. And then I started to wonder, now this of course is a liberal documentary and they didn't get into this. These police officers in this documentary that refused to write summons and meet the arrest quotas and all of this and had a civil rights lawsuit, I started to realize, you know what? These are activists who, it looks to me, became police officers to undermine the police force. That they went through the police academy, became officers so that they could make a case, a civil rights case against the New York Police Department. And if you watch that documentary on Hulu, Hulu's really pushing that documentary hard right now. It's 2 years old. I've never heard of it. But because of what's going on, Hulu is pushing it at the top of their suggestions because it's relevant to what's going on today. Go to how many of you have Amazon Prime? Amazon Prime, if you pull up Amazon Prime on your television right now, right at the top, they have a suggested list that they're suggesting everybody watch, and they're all films that are relevant to the protests that have been going on the past 2 weeks in the show, and they're pushing this on people. So I'm here to tell you that when the new television season is way behind because they haven't been filming, they are scrapping TV shows or revamping them, and next season the cops are no longer going to be the good guys. That's the new movement in Hollywood. Okay, and that's a major cultural shift, because young people growing up with that type of programming are going to view the world through that lens, as opposed to, say, I grew up, the police officer's your friend. That's not what they're going to learn with the new era of television shows and movies that are in pre-production right now. And it's going to happen. When it happens, it'll take a while because they still have, they're still kind of shut down in California. But when these new shows and movies start to come out, it's going to be like that. Boom. Like a ton of bricks. Like a ton of bricks. And you'll see. And it'll be a huge change. And it'll be very controversial. And it'll be every show with a new season. Next year. You'll see. You'll see. All right, let's take our last break of the second hour. Our number, toll-free, 1-888-GO-CANE-1. 888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. My name is Brian Craig. This is The Steve Kane Show. Don't go anywhere.
Brian Craig here. Conservative Doug called me up live on the air to tell me about his experience at Friendly Tire.
Two ball ties in the back of my Infiniti. So I called them up, and I we really checked prices first. Half the price of everybody else.
Half the price?
And
half the price at Friendly Tire. Wow.
half the price, and not only that, his tires, which nobody, the tires I'm looking at, had any mileage guarantee. That is a 60,000 mile warranty. So
wow.
They're not only half the price, they're twice as good.
So you're a repeat customer over there at Friendly Tire. You bought new tires, right? So you bought new tires, because they also sell used tires, starting at just $30 for most sizes. But you bought new tires, and they were half the price at Friendly Tire than at the other tire shops around town. That is phenomenal, and came with a 60,000 mile warranty on the tires. That's great. And of course, Friendly Tire, they never charge you to mount the tire, balance the tire, or dispose of your old tires. The price that they give you are out the door and on the road. And
great. Everybody should go there. I don't know how anybody could buy tires anyplace else. This guy is the best prices.
That's right. That's right. Listen, give Friendly Mike at Friendly Tire a call. His number, 954-977-9445. He'll give you a quote right over the phone, 954-977-9445. Online, friendlytire.net, or you can just stop right in. The address is listed at stevekaneshow.com. 5415 Northwest 15th Street in Margate, and that's just a little north of Coconut Creek Parkway on the east side of 441 State Road 7. Well, Conservative Doug, thanks so much, and I'm glad you got such a great deal on your tires at Friendly Tire in Margate.
Listen to The Steve Kane Show on iHeartRadio. Just search for WWNN.
All right, welcome back. I'm Brian. This is The Steve Kane Show. And on the line, a man who, Joe Biden could use the help of. Dr. Mitch Matez. Hey, Dr. Matez, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
He shows it to us every single day, folks, in many, many ways. But the biggest is the cognition that you like to talk about. But, he doesn't seem to have a whole lot of energy either. There's a lot of other things I'm sure he's lacking, and we could fix it all. So, it's a pretty good example to look at, folks. If this is where you want to end up, going down that path, then just don't do anything, and that's where you'll end up. But if you want to be Joe Biden's age and be sharp as a tack, playing golf, tennis, active, riding your bike, doing whatever you want, having sex with your wife, et cetera, or your husband, vice versa, this is all doable stuff. You do not have to decay and whittle away as you age. We can age gracefully, and it's not very hard to do. All you got to do is come and talk to us, and we'll do it for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And, hormone replacement pellet therapy, it's completely all natural, right, Dr. Matez? This is something natural that your body normally produces, but as you are older, as you grow older, your body produces less of. So everything you do is completely natural.
Human being system since the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
Testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone, particularly testosterone and estrogen. That's what makes men men, women women, and people people. And a lack of it is what makes us old and miserable.
That's exactly right. Now listen, Dr. Mitch Matez offers a free consultation for listeners of the Steve Kane Show. So when you call, mention that so you get that free consultation with Dr. Mitch Matez. His number, 561-953-5490. 561-953-5490, and online, hormone therapy, bocaratone.com. All right, Dr. Matez, we'll talk later in the week, which will be tomorrow. All right, take care. Yeah, because tomorrow's Friday. Oh, my goodness. Week flying by. Yeah, listen to this. Black Lives Matter targets Paw Patrol for depictions of good cops. The Black Lives Matter movement is targeting Paw Patrol, Paw like in a dog, it's a cop who's a dog, the popular children's cartoon on the Nick Jr. channel because it shows a positive view of police. This is according to the New York Times. The show actually attempted to support the Black Lives Matter movement on Blackout Tuesday with the entire Nickelodeon network as a whole. And they tweeted this out. This was Paw Patrol's official Twitter, tweeted out, in solidarity of hashtag amplify melanated voices. Oh my goodness. That was a hard one to even read. In solidarity of hashtag amplify melanated voices, this was Paw Patrol from Nick Jr., we will be muting our content until June 7th to give access for black voices to be heard so we can continue to listen and further our learning, hashtag amplify black voices, hashtag amplify melanated voices. Oh my goodness. However, the show's tweet, amplifying melanated voices, was met with an avalanche of criticism and mockery. The New York Times reported on Wednesday it was only a matter of time before the protests came for Paw Patrol. Last week when the show, this was New York Times writing this, last week when the show's official Twitter account put out a bland call for Black Lives and Matter and voices be heard of minorities, commentators came after them, saying euthanize the police dog, defund the Paw Patrol, all dogs go to heaven except the class traitors in Paw Patrol. As the protest against racist police violence enter their third week, the charges are mounting against fictional cops. Even big-hearted cartoon police dogs are on notice. The effort to publicize police brutality also means banishing the good cop narrative. See, no cops are good, so the good cop character in film and television shows must be done away with. This is all in the New York Times. The good cop type reigns on both television, and Paw Patrol seems harmless enough, and that's the point. The movement rests on understanding that cops do plenty of harm. So Nick Jr. needs to have a revamped Paw Patrol where the Paw Patrol is, I guess, a bunch of Cujos. I don't know. Cops can dance, they can hug, they can kneel on the ground, but their individual acts of kindness can no longer obscure the violence of a system. The Good Cop Act is wearing thin. This is all in the New York Times. On Tuesday, Paramount announced the cancellation of Cops. Now, I didn't realize Cops had been canceled. I thought they were just pulling it from television during the, a lot of times, like if there's a, after 9/11, the airlines stopped running ads for a while. You understand what I mean? You do that's something you do in the business. If there's a plane crash, you don't run airline ads. If there's a hurricane, you don't run hurricane shutter spots unless it's Steve Kane's show. And we did. Old story, I know. Oh boy. We'll tell it to you again sometime. But I thought that they were just pulling Cops temporarily. They have canceled Cops. Now, I'll tell you about Cops. You know what the problem they have with Cops? And they've been talking about this. It's the theme song, Bad Boys, because it defines the suspects as bad boys. Oh my gosh, they've actually canceled Cops. Other shows are being targeted as the woke protest continue. Oh my gosh. I haven't watched Cops in a long time. Don't they say in the beginning, all suspects are considered innocent until proven guilty in a court of law? Isn't that in Cops? The only crime committed by Cops was the band that sings Bad Boys foolishly signed over the rights to the song to Cops, and they haven't made money off Cops and that song in all these years playing the song because they, no one knew that Cops that started here in Broward County, Florida was going to be such a huge hit. But Cops, kids love Cops. When my daughter was little, she loved Cops. When Cops was new, I was in high school, middle school, high school, it was in the 80s. I loved Cops. And Cops is a documentary series. It's reality television before there was such a phrase. And Cops, I think, is probably one of the 5 best television shows ever in the history of American television. Certainly in the top 10. And Cops shows you really how stupid criminals are. I remember the one episode of Cops, and I know a lot of you have probably seen this, but there are 2 episodes of Cops that are really stand out in my mind. One of them is the most famous incident ever in Cops. You may have seen this one. Did you ever see the episode of Cops where a guy flags down an officer on the street? The cop comes over and he says, "I've been robbed." He points to this guy and gives him his name, and he tells the cop that he stole his crack. Anyone remember that episode? And the officer says, are you telling a police officer that your crack was stolen and you actually want me to go and arrest? Now, you gotta leave that open, Steve, for the internet. You want me to actually arrest the person who stole your crack and return your crack property? And he says, "Yes, sir." Remember that? That's how whacked on crack he was. And then there was that was probably the most famous scene of Cops. Then there was in the early days of Cops, when it was still here in Broward County, it really shows you how stupid criminals are. The undercover cop, this was BSO at the time, they had a El Camino, and they were driving it through Sistrunk Boulevard area here in Fort Lauderdale. And in the back of the El Camino, they had this huge box. And the El Camino was driving through the neighborhood looking to buy crack. And the box in the bed of the El Camino was filled with police officers. And every time someone sold them crack, they jumped out of the back of the El Camino and arrested them. And I'm thinking, who's going to sell crack to some white guy in an El Camino that has this massive box that obviously has cops? Well, anyway, Cops is not only one of the greatest television shows in the history of American television, it's also one of the most important because it's reality television. It is a documentary. You get to see before the era of body cams, you get to see both sides, what the cops and the criminals, all right, go through and what it's actually like on the street. The reason Cops has been canceled, okay, is just because of that. Because Cops is not scripted. Because Cops is a documentary. The Hollywood woke leftist, right? They can't write it to their narrative. And Cops shows exactly what is happening on the streets. And since it's not scripted, they can't change the scene or change the narrative. Because Cops is a documentary, what happens is what you see on television. So Cops has been canceled because they can't control what happens on the streets. Now, here's the other thing. They're pulling it from syndication as well. They're not airing it on the syndicated television channels because, like I said, when it's reality television and a documentary, they can't write a narrative for actors to act out. And there's a big move now by the woke leftist Hollywood crowd to portray cops, police officers, in a negative light. They're the new bad guys. And if Cops is on syndication with the 10,000 episodes that have been rerunning for the past 30 years, it shows what's really going on in the street. And what really is going on in the streets of America doesn't fit the new narrative. So it's a tragedy. All right, listen, we're coming up here on the top of the hour. Steve's joining us. Our number, if you'd like to comment on any of these things, I brought up a lot of good things today. We started talking about what's going on in Seattle, which I thought I had some unique and interesting insight on that. Also, what's going on with this woke banishment of film and television, which is very dangerous. We'll keep it open phone so long as you're relevant to the discussion at hand. Okay, it has to be something that's relevant to what we're talking about, okay? But we'll keep it somewhat open phones. Open phones within reason. Our number is toll free 1-888-GO-CANE-1. That's 888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. All right, third and final hour begins right now. It's 8 a.m.
This is Adrienne Kane, Steve's daughter, and I want to tell you about my Pillow mattress. I was talking to Dad, and I was telling him I wasn't sleeping at night. I was tossing and turning all night long. An old, worn-out, lumpy, bumpy mattress that was so uncomfortable, I wasn't getting any sleep. A couple of days later, there was a knock at the door, and it was a My Pillow mattress. I slept on it that night, and ever since I've been sleeping the whole night through. No more tossing, no more turning, and when my alarm goes off in the morning, I'm up and ready to go and well rested. Give your kids, grandkids, spouse, or yourself the gift of a good night's sleep with a My Pillow mattress. Go to mypillow.com and use the promo code KANE, K-A-N-E. When you use the promo code KANE, you can save up to $300 off your My Pillow mattress. They come in all sizes, from twin to California king, and every size in between. Go to mypillow.com and be sure to use the promo code KANE, K-A-N-E, and give the gift of a My Pillow mattress.
No, he produced Adam 12, Jack Webb. That was a Jack Webb show, Adam 12. Correct, yes. In fact, it was a spin-off of Dragnet, Adam 12. All right.
It's summertime, and that means backyard barbecues and hanging out by the pool. With Father's Day right around the corner,
Steve Kane Show.
Dad the gift all dads will love. A new grill from Ace Hardware Deerfield or Beach Ace Hardware in Lauderdale by the Sea. They are your grilling headquarters. They have an incredible selection on all the top brands like Weber and Traeger, and the best deals around on every type of grill there is. Gas grills, charcoal grills, portable grills, and more. Free assembly and delivery is available too. Ace Hardware Deerfield is just south of Hillsboro on the west side of US 1. Beach Ace Hardware is in Lauderdale by the Sea. Tell them you heard about them on the Steve Kane Show, and happy Father's Day.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
This is Steve Kane for attorney Barry Siegel. Barry did a great job for me and my family when we needed a revocable living trust. Listen to one of our listeners, Ray, talk about his experience with Barry Siegel.
I want to praise Barry Siegel, and one of the most important things about sponsors is integrity. You have to know that you're dealing with an honest person. I had to go up to Myrtle Beach for my sister because her husband died, and I was helping her out. She had a trust and everything. She had not revised this trust since 1997. And you know, Barry says every 3 years at least you gotta. I called Barry's office.
When they're on, it'll happen.
The secretary knows, so they'll call from South Carolina. I know the laws are different. And I'm just asking for information for my sister. Now, you know, most people just blow you off, right? You know, almost immediately, within a few minutes, Barry himself called me. I asked my questions and so on, and he answered. He was very patient. I was quite a while with him, and talked about a lot of things, you know, and this and that. But I want to say, you know, character, integrity, these are the most important things with sponsors, and all of your sponsors, because I've dealt with a lot of them. They all have that you can trust them, and you know you're getting a fair shake.
Do what Ray did. Call attorney Barry Siegel right now. Toll free 1-855.
What's not open yet, Rachel?
3782.
You said you're not calling me a liar?
Toll free FLA 3782. Tell them Steve.
You can call me a liar. Call me on the air and call me a liar. That's fine with me. Let me open up. I got. You want to open up?
Longest running radio show,
okay.
The Steve
I was
Kane
okay.
Show. To call the show toll free.
I was just asking if you wanted to open up.
Go Kane.
Well, shush up. Very good morning to you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Steve, along with Brian. This is the Steve Kane Show as we plow ahead, reaching forward to Friday, which is tomorrow. TGIF.
Thankfully.
And we can have some nice, relaxing.
Oh yeah.
Times.
Now I just got a call during the break. Someone wanted to correct me. I want to correct the corrector. They said Jack Webb wasn't on Adam 12. He was on Dragnet.
He was on Dragnet.
He was on Dragnet, but Jack Webb created Adam 12, and Adam 12 was a spin-off of Dragnet.
You know the character, his partner. I'm trying to remember.
Well, Joe Friday and Harry Morgan was the second.
Harry Morgan was with Ben Alexander.
Was the original. Oh yeah, that's right. But no, Adam 12 is spin-off of Dragnet.
Anyway,
So you know,
it's strange
correcting the corrector.
Strange that without consulting, we had the same idea this morning. Because I've been struck, there are a couple of movies are more real, in my opinion, than real life is. In fact, I frequently become confused between the two, where the reality leaves off and where the real life begins. I want to recommend 3 movies. They're all great movies, and each of them captures, let's see, is that a, yeah, it's a glimpse of the future, what lies ahead, and it's amazing how close they came, because they're all older films, to predicting what was to come. Here's the triumvirate of films you should see. Film number one, Soylent Green. Soylent Green, Edward G. Robinson's last film. Charlton Heston was in it. I don't think it was Charlton's last film.
Oh, no. No, he lived a long
Well, it
time.
was towards the end of his career.
Not Charlton Heston. Edward G. Robinson, maybe. I think Soylent Green was was maybe his end of his career as a leading man.
Soylent Green was the film, though. And it gave a very good idea of what crime might be in the future. What would it take? Because Charlton Heston plays a detective. I don't want to say too much. Rent it, see it. That's film number one. Number two, film called The Warriors.
Everybody knows The Warriors. That's a great movie. Michael Beck.
Everybody knows The Warriors, but The Warriors takes on a new meaning when you take a look at what's going on in Seattle. And then review or re-see the film The Warriors, and it basically predicts exactly what's going on now in Seattle. A bunch of crazed, lunatics. Like, what's the name of the group?
Well, in The Warriors, I don't remember the other
No,
game.
I'm talking about in real life.
Oh, you're talking about Occupy Wall Street?
No, I'm talking about...
Antifa.
Antifa predicted in that film, which is unbelievable. And the last one that I want to suggest, and this is the most scary one of all, go take a look at it, if you haven't seen it in a while, at a film with, let's see, Burt Lancaster was in it. I'm trying to remember who else was in it. 7 Days in May, I think. Who was the...
Yeah, that's the...
Kirk Douglas.
Yeah, that's the Robert Mueller Comey biopic, I think.
Exactly. And it is frightening. It's like it's like you're right out of the movie house.
I'll tell you something. 7 Days in May is on the chopping block because they mistreated little people in that movie with Kirk Douglas, and this is a true story. I'll tell you about 7 Days in May, and when I tell you this and you watch the movie, you will see it, and it is on the chopping block of insensitive films because of its depiction of little people that used to be known as midgets. And
no midgets in 7 Days in May.
Oh yeah, they're throughout the entire film and almost every scene. And the Pentagon, biggest building constructed, at least by that time, and it's known for its long hallways. And if you watch on DVD the director's commentary of 7 Days in May, the director, you know who the director is?
7 Days in May.
I only asked you because his name escaped me.
Kramer?
No, I can't remember his name either. He directed Star Trek: The Motion Picture too. I cannot remember his name to save my life. Oh, Robert Wise.
Yes.
Okay, so Robert Wise told the story. He said he couldn't build a hallway long enough to show the Pentagon hallways. So what he did was hired midgets, dressed them up as generals and admirals, and every time you see a general or an admiral or an officer walk down the long hallways, it's a midget, and it's on the chopping block of insensitive films because of its depiction of little people. I'm not kidding. It's true. When you go home and watch it, you'll say, yeah, those are midgets. When you know.
But of course, what you're doing takes the focus off the most
No, it's the
important
movies.
part.
It's the movies that are being banned. It's one of the.
They're going to ban the. That's ridiculous.
It's on the list.
First of all, you don't know they're midgets unless you.
Well, I told everybody. Now I got it on the list.
But I mean, you can't tell watching the movie that they're midgets.
The left can tell. The left can tell. They can tell.
Anyway, go see that film because when we were having those late night fights in front of the White House, and people were trying to break in and get the president. They were burn, baby, burn with the chapel and all that stuff. That's what I flashed in on.
Yeah.
It's like what happened in 7 Days in May. If you haven't seen it, I don't want to tell you too much, but it's one where the military rebels and does.
Yeah.
It's frightening how it reflects what they're doing to Trump now.
Well, you know, it's a funny thing that you say that, because there was a remake of 7 Days in May, which was not very good, with Forrest Whitaker and Jason Robards, okay? And it was a little different. It was the same movie but updated, and it wasn't very well written, so, you know, it wasn't a great movie. But in the remake of 7 Days in May, which was an HBO film, the same people that are banning Gone with the Wind until they appropriately, they're going to redo the cultural depictions in Gone with the Wind, they said. In the remake of 7 Days in May is an exact plan of what happened with Trump, and that in the remake with Forrest Whitaker, they attempt to. Forrest Whitaker plays the Kirk Douglas character, and Jason Robards plays the Burt Lancaster character. And to remove the president in the remake, they invoke the 25th Amendment with the cabinet signing over, which is what they were trying to get the cabinet to do with President Trump. Yeah, the same thing that they were trying to do with President Trump this time around. But, you know, I was talking the last hour. See, the banning of these movies has taken a whole new level because very few people own physical copies of them. And one of our callers called in about something that I've known about, and I'll find some other examples on another day to share with you. But not only are they banning movies, but they're re-editing movies to take out things that they don't want you to see. Like in Back to the Future, they took out the reference to the terrorist. There's also some editing that they're talking about doing to Die Hard.
They don't want you to know that there is such a thing as terrorists?
Not in Back to the Future. They used digital technology to take out terrorist from the movie, and it's now streaming online in this altered form. And because all the movies and television shows are now electronic and so few people own physical copies, when they make these changes, no one knows, you know? Or when they ban a movie, you can't just go to a bookstore and buy it anymore because so few people do that, you know? And so the banning of movies that they're talking about right now is the most serious time of the banning of film and books that we've ever experienced, because there really aren't physical. It's like Fahrenheit, you know, everyone's got to remember everything.
All three of those films that we mentioned are visions of the future that you should see because they're frightening real.
Yeah.
I mean, when you first saw the film, as I said, they're all great films, but you know, you enjoyed the action, you enjoyed the plot, but you viewed it as fiction.
Yeah.
This is actually almost a rerun of what happened in this attack on the White House.
But you know, I was talking in the first hour, so I'll recap. What's going on in Seattle is great, and no one in the news media understand what's going on in Seattle, and I don't think most people do because it's not being explained on television because they don't understand. What's happened in Seattle is Antifa have taken over this area of the city. The first thing they did was put up a wall and marked out and said this is no longer the country, and it's now called the Chaz, okay, Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, and they're occupying it now. And the Seattle government and the Washington state government are doing nothing about this. And a lot of people are getting upset about this. And President Trump said, if you don't go in, I will. Trump's not going in anywhere, okay? This is what's going on in Seattle. 2 weeks ago, the president tweeted that they were going to designate Antifa a terrorist organization. Last week, or the end of the week before, the Attorney General came out and said a similar thing after the president's tweet. The problem with Antifa is they've had a difficult time to determine who the leaders are. I believe 5 to 10% of Antifa are probably either federal agents or informants. And this thing going on in Seattle, they have a lot of different factions of Antifa, including the armed John Brown Antifa movement, which are their armed people. And leftists from around America are traveling to Seattle and joining them as we speak. And it's a pretty large area that they got set up. The media...
It's become a large area.
It was a large area before.
For a while.
500 people. I'm not talking about activists. I mean, like any day of the week, 500 people's homes are in that district in a normal day. Okay, so it's a residential area too.
It's an exaggeration to use the analogy of a cancer. It is spread like
No,
a cancer.
this is Trump wants this. I'll tell you what's going on. So 5 to 10% of the Antifa activists inside the zone in Seattle are either federal agents or informants, and as activists descend on the area, okay, what's going on right now is the largest. Now again, no one said this. This is just my
fantasy.
No, it's not my fantasy. It's, I'm watching what's going on, and I'm listening to the Attorney General and the President over the last couple weeks. They're doing a major surveillance operation there, monitoring all the communications in and out in every form of communication to try to determine who the Antifa leadership are that the Attorney General and the President designated as domestic terrorists a couple weeks ago. They're using this to find out who the Antifa leaders are. The Antifa leaders are not there, okay? They're not there. They're somewhere else. But at some point, if not already, they'll be in communication with them. They got to send them money and orders, and that's what's going on here. Trump's not going in. Barr's not going in. There's not going to be any Waco or Ruby Ridge in Seattle. It'll play itself out like Occupy Wall Street. It'll probably go on for 6 months or longer.
Well,
but that's what's going on.
This is way.
It's nothing to worry about. It's nothing to worry about in Seattle.
Wall Street.
Yeah, but what's going on in Seattle is nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about. And
well,
I know
you've reassured me.
Trump's not going in. The reason Trump mentioned it in his tweet yesterday was to get more of the leftists involved in moving there. They want us. They know that these agitators around the country that led the violent protests last week are from this group, and they're trying to find the leaders.
There's one possible hang-up with what you're saying, and that is you're granting a competency to our Secret Service organization
to Barr and the President.
We don't. Well,
to Trump and to Barr.
I mean, when we look at what they did to the president in the hearings they had and all that, it's like the gang that can't shoot straight. I mean, the intelligence.
Well, most of those people have been fired. There's new people running things now. Trump's people. You know, Comey and those clowns are gone. But that's what's going on out there. I'm telling you right now. And this secure, we were talking about this last week on the show. This security perimeter around the White House that they put up, a blackout last week, is about Antifa. They came out, both Barr and the President, talked about Antifa, boom, and then this thing goes up around the White House, and now this. That's what I think's going on, and it may not be. It'll be 6 months from now, maybe, before we know. But that's what they're doing.
Is the timing going to be influenced by the election?
Washington is a liberal state that's going to go Democrat no matter what. So I mean, you know, it doesn't have any impact over the presidential election. Not negative for Trump.
If it's dominating the news,
it's got nothing that hurts Trump.
Well, I didn't say it hurts Trump. I mean, who it hurts?
Democrats. It hurts Democrats.
But the point is, it's going to be a big. If things are as they are now or worse, it'll be a big factor in the election.
If there's any negative thing out of Seattle, it'll be because of it'll hurt the Democrats.
Coming out of Seattle, do you?
Yeah, it'll help Trump. It helps Trump.
Has come out to play.
No, it helps Trump. What's going on in Seattle?
Sorry, I just had a little flashback.
Okay.
To the Warrior.
You got to do the thing with the soda bottles when you do that, and the fingers. Remember, he was the guy in the Warriors when his Warriors come out to play, and he had soda bottles in his fingers, glass bottles, and was clinging them together.
Great.
If you can find glass soda bottles.
Great science fiction movie. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Anybody else want to comment on some of these film things we've talked about? We haven't done film in a long time. But we'll be back right after this.
5.3 FM, 96.9 FM, 103.9 FM, and AM 1470. WWNN Pompano Beach is the Florida Money Talk
Almost at
Network.
the end.
Stop paying an outrageous fortune for your tires. Go easy on
Well, we
your
got
budget.
Scott now.
At Friendly Tire
We got Scott
and
now.
Margate, where they have all
After the
major
break.
brands like Goodyear and Firestone at discount prices that absolutely can't be beaten. Steve Kane's tires for his Toyota van at the other shops, $175 a tire. At Friendly Tire, just $75 a tire. That's a $100 savings per tire. Tires for my daughter Emily's car, $135 at the shops around town. The price at Friendly Tire
wait,
is $65. That's a $70 savings per tire. These prices are out the door and on the road. Free mounting and balancing and no added charges. Friendly Tire have a great selection of good used tires too, starting at just $30 for most cars. Call my good buddy Friendly Mike at Friendly Tire. Tell him when you drive,
he's not answering.
he'll give you a great
I got
low
it.
price right over the phone.
I can't get him.
954-977-9445. 954-977-9445. Online, friendlytire.net.
Attention homeowners, this is Scott from Cut My Kilowatts. I'm here to cut your electric bill and save you a lot of money. Perhaps even eliminate your electric bill altogether. We do this by making your entire home energy efficient, by upgrading some or all of the following: roofs, doors, windows, insulating your attic, AC systems and ducts, hot water heaters, and even adding solar. Energy efficient improvements that actually pay for themselves over a short period of time. Our program is designed to make the savings on your electric bill pay for all or part of your low monthly payments. The PACE program is government sponsored and gives you up to 30 years to pay. Requires no credit check, no money down, no income verification, and no payments for up to 18 months. You only need to be current on your mortgage and taxes for the last 3 years to qualify. Energy savings and hurricane solutions made easy. Call 954-939-1500. 954-939-1500 to start saving money now.
Oh, you scared the bejesus out of me. Holy shit. You scared the crapola out of me.
I'm auditioning for the
Oh my goodness. I don't even know if where I hope our mics weren't on. I better dump myself. Oh my, Al Knight ran in and scared the living bejesus out of me. I said the S word. God, I must have jumped in. I was reading something and he came in and was like, hey, and I was like, you scared
Oh,
the...
by the way.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
You said you were going to keep me posted on this new water repair shop.
Well, I'll tell,
I hear we're just a fraction of an inch away.
No, someone.
They're really great.
No, someone called yesterday, and I did some research on them yesterday. Actually, a listener called yesterday who owns an auto repair shop, and I talked to him yesterday.
He's from New York. That's a good start.
Yeah, and no, we'll be talking to him next week and telling people about him. But I did some research online, and they're very well reviewed by customers. So that's always a good sign.
Yes, it is.
That's a good sign. Oh my gosh, it was just I'm not. You know, we've been in this new studio for about a month and a half now, and in our old studio there was nobody around, right, until after we were there, and we worked that way for so long. Now when there's just random people walking the hallways in the radio station, I'm not used to it. It catches me off guard. Yeah, that was Al Knight that came in. No, but you know, with this situation, Steve, in Seattle is the best thing that's happened to Trump in a long time. You know, how does it hurt?
It's bigger than that. The whole thing of the mistake they made was the thing of cutting back on the cops or what's the word that they used to?
Retreat. They said it was a police retreat.
Yeah, and doing away with cops or hiring new cops or private cops or whatever it is.
No cops.
That's going to cost them the election.
There's no cops. They got a list of demands. I mean, I got it here. Hold on. Let me look. Give me a minute here. I have the list of demands from the leaderless movement inside of.
The top of the list has to be, from what I saw yesterday at the hearings, has to be paring down the police force.
Oh well, yeah. Well, at the top of the list are no police officers. I mean, that's a given. No police officer.
John Lennon would say, just imagine.
But you know, they've already gone a little bit too far. I can't find the list. I'll find them during the bottom of the hour break. But they have a list of demands. At the top of the list is getting rid of the cops. Yeah. I mean, who crafted that brilliant one?
They're trying to pull it back, but
that's already out there.
Successful.
Well, now what they're trying to do is they're trying to say, no. What we mean is demilitarize them and take some of their budget and apply it to other things. Well, but that's not what they were saying. They were saying
that's the back out position they've got now.
Yeah.
But initially it was to do away with cops.
Steve Kane Show.
Unreal.
Yeah.
1-888-GO-CANE-1. You want to take that?
Actually, we're going to talk quickly with Scott from Cut My Kilowatts. Hey, Scott.
Scott, how you doing today?
Well, now tell people about this because Scott is going to install a radiant barrier in your home. Put your home in the shade, lowering the temperature of your attic, of your ceiling, which lowers the amount of work that your AC has to use. Now, for the rest of this month, you're offering people a pretty sizable discount. Tell people about the discount that is good for only the remainder of June when they call you, Scott. Wow. Well, listen, that $500 discount is only good for the remainder of June. So listen, I'm going to give you Scott's number right now. This is his cell phone. It rings directly to his cell phone. You want to call Scott. You want to call him quick, and you want to lock in that $500 savings. 954-939-1500. 954-939-1500. 1500.
Scott, good talking to you, and keep up the good work. We're getting a lot of good feedback from our listeners. They say you do a great job. Okay?
That's for sure.
God bless the USA.
Yeah, so here's the list of demands. Okay? These are the list of demands from those that are occupying the police station in the area that used to be the United States, and it's now known as the Chaz.
A week or two ago when this thing started, where was the first police station that they took burned down?
Well, no, there was one in Minneapolis. That's unrelated to this. That's unrelated.
Was the first one.
No, they didn't burn this one down. They moved in.
Yeah.
Okay, so they didn't burn this down. This is their own. And then they released a list of demands. Okay, here's number one. The Seattle Police Department and attached court system are beyond reform. We do not request reform. We demand abolition. And it's whatever that means. I guess freedom from the jails. Freedom from the jails. They want they want the jails emptied. They want the jails emptied. Two.
Free the slaves.
Yeah. In the transition, I'm skipping down a lot because there's a lot of nonsense under their demands. Number two, in the transition period between the dismantlement of the police department, we demand the use of armed force be banned entirely.
Oh.
No guns, no riot shields.
Only water pistols.
No chemical weapons, which is tear gas, especially against those exercising their First Amendment rights. We demand an end to the school-to-prison pipeline, an end to youth jails, get kids out of prison, no more police officers in the public schools, the resource officers.
That's great.
Yeah. We demand that not the city government nor the state government, but that the federal government launch a full-scale investigation to past and current cases of police brutality in Seattle. That's Trump. They want Trump in there and Barr.
This is the worst thing that has happened to Biden since he first declared. This thing, if nothing else, is going to destroy his candidacy.
We demand reparations for victims of police brutality. We demand the city make the names of officers involved in police brutality public record. We demand retrial of all people of color serving in prison for violent crimes by a jury of their peers, which would be other criminals.
You know what I flashed in on? Remember when, I don't want to tell the whole story because it's a long story. Remember when I told you about my experience when I visited the Spahn Ranch?
Yeah.
When Manson was on, it was during the Manson trial. Manson wasn't there, but Squeaky Frome was running the place with some of the other high-profile Manson. It turned out to be the high-profile Manson people. And it was Squeaky looked at me in the eye. She said, "You know what Charlie says?" Little Charlie. She says, "Charlie says that all the good people are locked up in the jails, and someday when the revolution comes, listen, this is so scary. It's so similar to what's going on. We're going to open up all the jails and let all the good people who are incarcerated," she didn't use that word, "let all of them out and put the people that are out now that are on the outside, they're the bad ones, they'll be locked up." That was Charlie Manson's ultimate plan going back to the 60s. The Spahn Ranch. Unbelievable.
Well, Charlie's not with us, but his...
but his spirit lives on.
Yeah. And they have about 30 demands. I'm not going to go through all of them, but they also want an increase of cultural funding for the arts. I guess the poets and artists that are there, that's one of their demands. Rid of the police, empty the prisons, and give us money for our art. But it's, you know, this is perfect for us. You know, if this worked, if what was going on in Seattle hurt Trump and not the left, the media would be camped out in Seattle right now with...
Oh, the media's trying to help them pull it back.
Yeah, the media aren't really showing it to you and showing you what's been going on. Now, after the break, at the bottom of the hour, let me see if I have this audio. I played this yesterday. Well, I'll tell you about it after the break if I don't have it. But apparently, according to Terry McAuliffe, Joe Biden may be being held prisoner in the basement of his home. So we'll talk a little bit about that when we get back. Steve Kane Show. Steve here. I'm Brian. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
5.3 FM, 96.9 FM, 103.9 FM, and AM 1470. WWNN Pompano Beach is the Florida Money Talk Network.
This is Steve Kane, and I wanted to share with you some thoughts about why I chose the Gardens of Boca Raton. You think you could find the Warrior sound drop? Uncomfortable with thoughts of
I can't do it now. I don't know.
No, I don't mean now. Time that I visited the Gardens of Boca Raton,
I'll have to look.
I could feel my apprehensions vanish. Just knowing that I'd be spending eternity with my family in such magnificent surroundings lifted my spirits. The Gardens of Boca Raton is an all-faith, above-ground cemetery.
Michael Beck's the actor.
Did he ever make anything else? Time and time again.
No, I'll tell you after what happened.
Celebrating your life. The Gardens have caring professionals available to help you in your time of need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Pre-need with 0% financing is available and prevents your family from having to deal with these matters at the time of their grief and sorrow. The Gardens of Boca Raton, dedicated to all those who have lived and all those who live today. Let the Gardens take care of your family like they take care of my family. Call to schedule a tour at area code 561-325-6664. That's 561 area code 325-6664 or online, thegardens.com. Tell them Steve Kane sent you.
The Steve Kane Show is brought to you by Attorney Barry Siegel at the Siegel Law Group. Are you concerned with the distribution of your assets at the time of your passing? Avoid probate. Call the Siegel Law Group with 9 offices throughout South Florida, from Palm Beach Gardens to Coral Gables. Call toll-free 1-855-FLA-3782.
Appreciate it, Beverly. All right, here we go.
The Steve Kane Show on iHeartRadio.
And here is the man who keeps us here on the Steve Kane Show healthy, and no matter what our diet deficiencies may be, we learn how to compensate and balance out things with the help of Richard Pearl from Simply Natural. Knows more about natural foods and things like that than anyone I've ever known. Richard, how are you today? I got Brian his package this morning.
Yeah, I'm going through the supplements that you sent me through Steve, and you've sent me 3, 4, 5 different supplements, and I'll be starting them today. Yeah.
Richard, let me jump in and ask a question here that troubles me. I think the bottom line, what I want to know, and I think what the public would like to know is, does it look like there's going to be a serious relapse going back to, how things were when they were bad in the beginning? Lie, yes. Right. Well, one of the things you do for me, that I think do for any of our listeners, and they'd appreciate it, is you calm me down, you put everything in perspective, you explain it in a way that makes me feel I'm in control of what's happening, and I'm not walking around scared all the time like I was before.
Sounds like a therapist.
Yes, exactly. Before I discovered you, Richard, over there, it's Simply Natural. Tell them if they want to find you, where to find you, and tell them about your weekend show. Richard, great talking to you, and we will speak tomorrow, wind up the week, all right?
That's for sure.
You take care, my friend.
See, this thing in Seattle, see, is going to be cleaned up by the Democrats. It's going to be cleaned up by the Democrats, not Trump.
Well, I'm sure that comes with an explanation, right?
Well, they have put up a wall, which of course the left tells us is racist, around this whole area in Seattle, okay? 500 people on a normal day, their homes are there, their private homes and residences are there, and their families with kids and everything. So you've got 500 people that live there, it's a neighborhood too, that are being held kind of prisoner of sorts by this. It is nothing but negative for the left. They're terrorizing their own people because Seattle and Washington State are the most liberal parts of the country. It's more liberal than San Francisco because San Francisco is just one city. This is, I mean, they're so liberal in Seattle and in the state of Washington, they make New York City look conservative. I mean, they're that radical out there. And the people that live there are not going to put up for very long being held prisoner in their own home by Antifa. So believe me, they'll clean it up, just like the left cleaned up Occupy Wall Street. That wasn't cleaned up by conservatives; it was in liberal communities, and they said they had enough, and they ran them off the streets.
I don't think you can compare the two happenings. They're so different in scale and in size. I can't believe, because they were successful in closing down the Wall Street protests, I don't think it's going to be as easy with this one.
Yeah. Now, Terry McAuliffe, I played this yesterday, but I want to play it again. I believe that Joe Biden may be a victim of elder abuse. I mean, he's obviously suffering from major cognitive issues. And there's been a lot of talk about him not leaving the basement of his home. Well, Terry McAuliffe was caught. He was in a private Zoom meeting with Democrat governors and said something about Joe Biden that he didn't mean for the entire country to hear. And to me, it sounds as if they're holding him prisoner. They don't want him out in public. This is Terry McAuliffe talking to Democrat governors in a Zoom call a couple days ago. Listen.
People say all the time, oh, we got to get the vice president out of the basement. He's fine in the basement. 2 people see him a day, he's 2 body people. That's it.
Okay. So he's not even seeing his wife, apparently, according to Terry McAuliffe. The only 2 people Joe Biden sees are his security detail, Secret Service.
Trump keep doing what Trump's doing. It's hard for the vice president to break through. You've got the COVID crisis. He's not a governor, doesn't have a National Guard. He's not the president, doesn't have a briefing room. He needs to come out strategically when he says something like he did on race relations 2 days ago. It needs to have a big impact, thoughtful, and that's what we're preferring that he actually do at the time. He's doing a lot of local. He's talking to 2-3 governors a day. He's doing roundtables, Zoom calls. He's doing
almost done
with local officials, and a lot of it's being done in those 6 battleground states that we have going forward.
Okay, so yeah.
I had the most astounding experience last night listening to Fox. They had a tape of Biden from 25 years ago, and he was speaking. You couldn't tell it was the same person. He was sharp. He was crisp. I mean, he's never going to be a Donald Trump, but he was articulate. He was sharp.
Yeah,
he was
20 years ago.
And it made the comparison between how he is today. It just made it so obvious that he's finished.
Well,
It's only a question of time till he collapses.
Well, here's what I think is going on. Based on Terry McAuliffe, who's a senior guy in the Democrat Party, they're not letting him leave, and they're probably telling him it's too dangerous to leave because of the coronavirus, to keep him down there quietly doing what it is he's doing.
Well, I'm sure he's very content being managed at this point.
I don't think he's aware enough to know.
Control.
I don't think he's coherent enough to know. And you know, they played a video of him at the George Floyd funeral, where he made a statement, and it is the most heavily edited video you could possibly imagine in his statement. And you can see they tried to hide the edits, but if you watch it, the edits are all of a sudden it's a full body, and then all of a sudden it's a close-up, then it's the body again, then the close-up. He could not even read the teleprompter message without, well, you can't see the edits on the audio. You got to see it on the visual.
Oh, you can hear them.
You can't hear the edits, but you can see it. Every time the camera angle changes, that's an edit. He could not even read the statement, the 2-minute long statement on the teleprompter straight. He's so incoherent and out of it. And there's no way that I would imagine the biggest fear the Democrats have right now is the debate. There's 2 debates.
Much of the discussion I've heard on Fox is about whether there's going to be debates.
Oh yeah, there'll be debates.
Well,
Steve Kane show.
They're saying that they think he can get away maybe with 1. Obviously, he wants as few as possible, and it's a hell of a thing to know about your candidate, that they can't get up on a stage and debate the opponent.
If they can have hearings like they had yesterday in the House, they can have usually during a debate. Already there's social distancing. They're not on top of each other. They're usually 12 feet apart, so that won't be an issue. Oh, look who we have on the line. Our estate planning attorney, Barry Siegel. Hey, Barry. Doing great. How?
What's up, Barry? How you doing? Excellent.
Hey.
And there is no charge for that initial consultation. That is for Steve Kane listeners. Let me give you the number where you can make your appointment. Toll free 1-855-FLA-3782. One more time, 1-855-FLA is in Florida, 3782. We'll talk to you on Friday tomorrow, okay, my friend? You take care, and we are back.
Well, it's time to check in on the gold prices.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
I can't. God, I can only imagine what's going on today. We have this great feature here every morning. Everybody's favorite feature, the Gold Report. One of the reasons it's such a favorite feature is because through the years, William Youngerman has brought you the Gold Report for like about 18 years. So over the years, people have made various investments in the precious metals, and it's so nice to get together, kick off the day, to take a look at what's happening this morning. How's it looking, William?
And they're really good. I noticed there was 15 second club. Good stuff though. Just trying to advertise the show.
Absolutely, and this definitely qualifies as a pullback day, a good day to stop by and say hello to William Youngerman. Also, tell him about what you offer in terms of Father's Day. And you will find William at 150 East Palmetto Park Road in Boca. That's the Bank of America building. William's on the first floor, directly across from the bank. You can reach him by phone from anywhere in the world, 1-800-327-5010, or go to the website, museum quality website at williamyoungerman.com. William, good talking to you. We'll wind up the week tomorrow. All right, my friend, and we are back.
See, this thing with Biden, if you listen to what McAuliffe said, to Chair McCall, listen to this closely. Now listen to what he says.
People say all the time, oh, we got to get the vice president out of the basement. He's fine in the basement.
Okay. A pretty serious thing here. He's talking to Democrat governors, so there's obviously the governors and the others, leaders in the Democrat Party are like, hey, listen, we need our candidate campaigning. And Chair McAuliffe didn't say, well, there's this COVID-19, and because of his age, he's high risk. What Chair McAuliffe is saying is they are keeping him in the basement, that they're not allowing him to leave. They're holding him really prisoner. And, this is a big story. And that wasn't supposed to be out there for the public. Somebody leaked that out. And it hasn't been I haven't seen it on the national news. I don't know if any of the other, have you seen that on, discussed like that?
It's hard to tell because there's a great deal of stuff all
I haven't
over
seen
the
this.
board, all over the board on Biden's and the competency.
Well, this here.
And they're trying to keep him
If
unexposed as possible.
But it's unexposed not to COVID-19, but to talking in public, speaking in public.
Yeah, to the cameras.
It sounds as if he's being conned into staying there. And the couple times he's been out, he's been all covered up, and quiet and everything. And if they're keeping him under so much control now, if God help us, he became the president, could you imagine what the situation would be? And, I haven't seen this on Fox. If anybody has seen this on Fox, let me know. But it's a pretty serious thing they're doing there, holding a presidential candidate. In the last election, the Democrats were spying on a presidential candidate. In this election, the Democrats are holding a presidential candidate under house arrest and not allowing them to leave by putting the fear in them of COVID-19. It's pretty serious what they're doing with Biden, and it's not right, and it's elder abuse. And it seems to me, because they got to convince him to stay in there somehow. So they're telling him lies about the dangers that he may face if he leaves the house.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, what else are they doing to keep him in there?
1-888-GO-CANE, K-A-N-E, if you want to participate in the program and you'd like to put your 2 cents in before we leave at 9 o'clock. 1-888-GO-CANE, K-A-N-E, followed by the numeral 1, 1-888-GO-CANE-1, and we will take your call.
Yeah, and the Biden, listen, the rallies are coming back. Trump has already announced he's going to have his rallies. I don't have the date in front, but they're coming up soon. Just in a couple of weeks, he's going to have rallies. And he'll have them all over the country again. And Biden he's not going to be able to get away with being in seclusion.
You think the Democrats are going to let him get away with it that easy, or do you think they're going to...
Well, it's a free country.
Well, yes, but of course that's before the play.
If he does it
in
in
other words, will the Democrats, I would imagine, if I project myself into that mindset, would probably pull any strategy they possibly could to sabotage.
Well, what they'll do.
They understand the danger they're faced with.
If it's in a local area that Democrats control, they'll use coronavirus to say you can't have an assembly of any kind here. So it'll have to be in Republican-controlled areas. No areas controlled by Democrats are never Trumpers.
Yeah, but some of the
That's what they'll do.
We need strategically.
No, he'll find ways. People will drive.
Find this television.
No, he's got to be in person. If it's a Democrat town, what he'll do is he'll go to the next town over where a Republican runs the county or something. But they'll use coronavirus to try to order the rallies not to be allowed, is what they'll try to do, and say it's a public health risk, while their people are marching in the streets all over the country.
I think that's a pretty safe bet.
Yeah, but he'll find a way around it. He'll find a way around. In 2016, they had fire marshals after him, trying to stop some of the rallies and the sizes of the crowds and everything. This is what Democrats do. But they're not going to be able to get all the way through an election with having their candidate locked away.
If you were doing an EKG on the campaign, wouldn't you?
Ours or theirs?
Ours.
Yeah.
Would you not agree that this is a little low spot here?
No. Trump's on top of the world. I know for a fact Trump's going to win in a landslide, because if the Democrats thought there was any hope of Trump not winning, they'd replace Biden with a viable candidate. And no one, they don't have a credible person who wants to take the candidacy away, because it's a losing candidacy. So they don't have any credible people to replace Biden. If there was any hope of winning, they'd replace Biden, who's locked in the house.
Who knows that they're not going to?
No, they're not going to. They're not going to.
It depends. You don't know. How much can he deteriorate between now and the end of the campaign? There's
if they wanted
a lot
him,
of time for.
No.
If he deteriorates from where he is now.
Steve Kane show.
To say. It's hard to imagine.
Yeah. If they wanted Biden out and replaced, they would let him out of the basement and show how bad he is. They're trying to hide his mental state.
But if let's say he has a bad spell, or he...
But they're not letting that happen. Like that's why they're not letting him out. That's why the George Floyd thing was done on tape. They're not letting him out. They're protecting him.
Did you see Sharpton talking to them when he said, "We're going to play nice for now"?
Yeah.
Until George is in the ground.
Yeah.
Paraphrase.
Yeah.
And this, then once George is in the ground.
Yeah.
Then we'll take our revenge.
Yeah.
Basically, was what he was saying.
Richie, you're on the air.
Hey, Rich. Good.
Well, no, hold on. Hold on. There's two different things. The press blame everything on Trump, but who do the American people blame? That's the right question. By the press, not by the... Yeah. You're watching too much Chris Wallace, Richie. The press are going to blame him for everything, but what about the voters? Who do the voters blame for the virus and the shutdown? Fauci. They blame Fauci for the shutdown and China for the virus. That are going to vote Democrat anyway. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the scariest part. Free speech is definitely on the line in this administration.
See, what happens is what you're seeing in the news is accurate, Richie, but the news is not giving you a true impression of what's going on in the country. The television news are giving you, I saw a story today, Fox, Fox carried the George Floyd funeral with the rest of them, and which I don't know, if somebody knows, call us. I don't know when the last time a non-celebrity's funeral was carried live on national television, but Fox News' ratings tanked during the George Floyd funeral. I mean, there was a big article today I read, went down the tubes. And Tucker Carlson did something that's a very anti-Fox move that's not being identified. He just sold to his partner and college roommate his shares of his online news publication, The Daily Caller. And Tucker Carlson said in the statement that was released yesterday on the sale that there has been at The Daily Caller a no-attack Fox rule because he works at Fox. I believe Tucker Carlson sold the Daily Caller so that the Daily Caller can go after Fox News. Like they can't go after Chris Wallace with him there, and it's exactly why he sold this big story today, but no one's picking up on that angle I am on why he sold it, this money-making machine, so they can go after Fox. You got to be quick, we're out of time, so... I don't think she's being censored. We've heard it. Has she been on Fox talking about it?
No, they're sitting on it.
Because Fox is sold out.
Well, there are other stations.
All right, Richie, we got to run.
You would think would pick it up.
CNN, yeah, right. Yeah. We're out of time.
That's it for today. Well, time flies when you're having fun, and we have had a lot of fun. We'll have more fun tomorrow. Tune in 6 a.m. On behalf of Brian, I'm Steve. God bless America.
It's summertime, and that means backyard barbecues.
Hey, guys.
Now by the pool, with Father's Day right around the corner.
Thanks, Beverly, and guys, make sure you subscribe, all right? Take care. Bye.
I gotta use the mental